Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. I am still Blue Moony, fantasy writer and shy magical library in human skin. Sorry, that music cutoff was rather more abrupt than intended. On my usual chat screen, I have the opening music set up to continue. Oh, hello, King Theseus. Hello, lovely to see you. Welcome back. Welcome back. We will keep reading today. I hope you're enjoying The War of the Worlds so far. It is a good book, but it's pretty heavy, isn't it? The language is so different to what we usually use now. It can do interesting things to Blue's brain as she reads. Yes, on my usual chat screen, I've got the opening music set up to keep going, so I can keep it going nicely and turn it down and bring up my usual background music. But it seems I have not set up my library background with that little feature, so I may have to see to that. I'll fix that up. So yes, again, sorry for the rather abrupt end to the opening music there. I have the rain going for our lovely background here. Please let me know if you can hear it, if it's at a good level. I think I mess around with my own computer headphone levels so much. Yep, there it is. Yep. I can't have things very loud. It does strange things to my attention. Righty. Oh dear. Yes, I also forgot to set up the waiting room, as you may have noticed. I meant to do it after last stream, but I was tired. And then I meant to do it yesterday, but I was tired as well. Yes, I only noticed as I was sitting down to set up today. But it was an easy fix. I had the thumbnail all ready to go. And the useful thing about doing a series of streams like this is that, yes, we can reuse settings. Just reuse the settings. Less work, it's lovely. Sounds good. I'm a little sick. I might be quiet. I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. It's not good at all. Honestly, I'm not feeling fantastic either. I haven't felt fantastic for a little while, actually. It's a thing. So yes, you just sit quiet then and listen, and hopefully listening to the story may, if not improve health, at least improve feeling and mindset, and maybe help you feel just a little bit more comfortable. I hope so anyway. Oh dear. But yes, given you're not feeling well and I'm not feeling well, I should probably be reasonably mindful of the streaming time tonight. Probably should not go for too long. Well, anyway, shall we continue? We got up to, oh goodness me, Roman numerals at the moment, my head. 15, 16, 17. We are up to chapter 17, which is the Thunder Child. Oh yeah, relaxing should help me heal. I hope so. I do hope so. Oh dear. Let's all see if we can have a relax with the Thunder Child. A wonderful, relaxing alien invasion. I wonder if that's been done, if anyone's actually written an alien invasion that is somehow comfortable and cozy as well. I know cozy fantasies, I haven't read any of them, but I know they are reasonably popular at the moment. But I wonder if anyone's pulled off a cozy alien invasion. I would consider taking it on as a challenge, but given the number of projects I already have, that would be unwise. Could it be a short story, maybe? I should probably write down the ideas just so it's there. Cozy alien invasion. How would we do that? Maybe we can talk about that in a later stream. How to go about creating a cozy alien invasion. And I do mean actually cozy, not the aliens sort of infecting all of our minds and making us think everything is cozy when it's not actually cozy. I mean, truly, somehow, a cozy alien invasion. Oh dear. Sorry, tangenting already. Let's go. Chapter 17, The Thunder Child. Had the Martians aimed only at destruction, they might on Monday have annihilated the entire population of London as it spread itself slowly through the home counties. Oh, King Theseus, there's one movie I can't recall the name where they invited us to some galactic federation. Ooh. I think I remember seeing a trailer for that one. Is that the one when a kid winds up accidentally going instead of the chosen president or something? I haven't seen it, but I think I remember a trailer along those lines. I think I do. And reasonably recently, although, recently in my head could be, in the last decade or so. Oh dear. I'm not sure. I'll have to Google. Okay. Let me know if you find anything. Where are we? Not only along the road through Barnet, but also through Edgware and Waltham Abbey, and along the roads eastward to Southend and Shoeburyness, and south of the Thames to Deal and Broadstairs, poured the same frantic rout. If one could have hung that June morning in a balloon in the blazing blue above London, every northward and eastward road running out of the tangled maze of streets would have seemed stippled black with the streaming fugitives, each dot a human agony of terror and physical distress. I have set forth at length in the last chapter my brother's account of the road through Chipping Barnet, in order that my readers may realize how that swarming of black dots appeared to one of those concerned. Never before in the history of the world had such a mass of human beings moved and suffered together. The legendary hosts of Goths and Huns, the hugest armies Asia had ever seen, would have been but a drop in that current. And this was no disciplined march. It was a stampede gigantic and terrible, without order and without a goal. 6 million people, unarmed and unprovisioned, driving headlong. It was the beginning of the rout of civilization, of the massacre of mankind. Directly below him, the balloonist would have seen the network of streets far and wide, houses, churches, squares, crescents, gardens already derelict, spread out like a huge map, and in the southward blotted. Over Ealing, Richmond, Wimbledon, it would have seemed as if some monstrous pen had flung ink upon the chart. Steadily, incessantly, each black splash grew and spread, shooting out ramifications this way and that, now banking itself against rising ground, now pouring swiftly over a crest into a new-found valley, exactly as a gout of ink would spread itself upon blotting paper. And beyond, over the blue hills that rise southward of the river, the glittering Martians went to and fro, calmly and methodically spreading their poison cloud over this patch of country, and then over that, laying it again with their steam jets when it had served its purpose, and taking possession of the conquered country. They do not seem to have aimed at extermination so much as at complete demoralization and the destruction of any opposition. They exploded any stores of powder they came upon, cut every telegraph, and wrecked the railways here and there. They were hamstringing mankind. They seemed in no hurry to extend the field of their operations, and did not come beyond the central part of London all that day. It is possible that a very considerable number of people in London stuck to their houses through Monday morning. Certain it is that many died at home, suffocated by the black smoke. Until about midday, the Pool of London was an astonishing scene. Steamboats and shipping of all sorts lay there, tempted by the enormous sums of money offered by fugitives, and it is said that many who swam out to these vessels were thrust off with boat hooks and drowned. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the thinning remnant of a cloud of the black vapour appeared between the arches of Blackfriars Bridge. At that the pool became a scene of mad confusion, fighting and collision, and for some time a multitude of boats and barges jammed in the northern arch of the Tower Bridge, and the sailors and lightermen had to fight savagely against the people who swarmed upon them from the riverfront. People were actually clambering down the piers of the bridge from above. When, an hour later, a Martian appeared beyond the clock tower and waded down the river, nothing but wreckage floated above Limehouse. It's a pretty amazing image you can get there of the Martian tripod behind the clock tower in London. That would be pretty incredible. Of the falling of the 5th cylinder I have presently to tell. The 6th star fell at Wimbledon. My brother, keeping watch beside the women in the chase in a meadow, saw the green flash of it far beyond the hills. On Tuesday, the little party, still set upon getting across the sea, made its way through the swarming country towards Colchester. The news that the Martians were now in possession of the whole of London was confirmed. They had been seen at Highgate, and even, it was said, at Neasden, but they did not come into my brother's view until the morrow. That day the scattered multitudes began to realize the urgent need of provisions. As they grew hungry, the rights of property ceased to be regarded. Farmers were out to defend their cattle sheds, granaries, and ripening root crops with arms in their hands. A number of people now, like my brother, had their faces eastward, and there were some desperate souls even going back towards London to get food. These were chiefly people from the northern suburbs whose knowledge of the black smoke came by hearsay. He heard that about half the members of the government had gathered at Birmingham, and that enormous quantities of high explosives were being prepared to be used in automatic mines across the Midland counties, across the Midland counties. He was also told that the Midland Railway Company had replaced the desertions of the first day's panic, had resumed traffic, and was running northward trains from St. Albans to relieve the congestion of the home counties. There was also a placard in Chipping Ongar announcing that large stores of flour were available in the northern towns, and that within 24 hours bread would be distributed among the starving people in the neighbourhood. But this intelligence did not deter him from the plan of escape he had formed, and the three pressed eastward all day, and heard no more of the bread distribution than this promise. Nor, as a matter of fact, did anyone else hear more of it. That night, the 7th star falling upon Primrose Hill. That night fell the 7th star falling upon Primrose Hill. It fell while Miss Elphinstone was watching, for she took that duty alternately with my brother. She saw it. On Wednesday, the three fugitives, they had passed the night in a field of unripe wheat. reached Chelmsford, and there a body of the inhabitants, calling itself the Committee of Public Supply, seized the pony as provisions, and would give nothing in exchange for it but the promise of a share in it the next day. Oh, seems Prism has disconnected. Sorry, we'll see. Oh, we're reconnected again, so there's probably going to be something a little funny in the stream there. I'm so sorry about that. Not sure why Prism suddenly disconnected there, but so long as there's no other issues there, we'll keep going. I'm so sorry about that. Where were we? Here there were rumours of Martians at Epping, and news of the destruction of Waltham Abbey, powder mills, and a vain attempt to blow up one of the invaders. Small jump, nothing too big. Thank you. Thank you, yes. No idea why it disconnected. It's done that a few times, but not often enough to, cause me any considerable alarm. Oh dear. But yes, if it starts happening more frequently, I shall do my best to look into it, not being a particularly tech-inclined library. I might just read that sentence again. I think I did not do it any justice. Here there were rumours of Martians at Epping, and news of the destruction of Waltham Abbey powder mills in a vain attempt to blow up one of the invaders. People were watching for Martians here from the church towers. My brother, very luckily for him as it chanced, preferred to push on at once to the coast rather than wait for food, although all three of them were very hungry. By midday, they passed through Tillingham, which, strangely enough, seemed to be quite silent and deserted, save for a few furtive plunderers hunting for food. Near Tillingham, they suddenly came in sight of the sea, and the most amazing crowd of shipping of all sorts that it is possible to imagine. For after the sailors could no longer come up the Thames, they came on to the Essex coast, to Harwich and Walton and Clacton, and afterwards to Foulness and Shoebury, to bring off the people. They lay in a huge sickle-shaped curve that vanished into the mist, at last towards the Naze. Close inshore was a multitude of fishing smacks. English, Scotch, French, Dutch, and Swedish. Steam launches from the Thames, yachts, electric boats, and beyond were ships of larger burden, a multitude of filthy colliers, trim merchantmen, cattle ships, passenger boats, petroleum tanks, ocean tramps, an old white transport even, neat white and grey liners from Southampton and Hamburg, and along the blue coast across the black water, my brother could make out dimly a dense swarm of boats chaffering with the people on the beach, a swarm which also extended up the Blackwater almost to Meldon. About a couple of miles out lay an ironclad, very low in the water, almost to my brother's perception like a waterlogged ship. This was the ram Thunderchild. It was the only warship in sight, but far away to the right over the smooth surface of the sea, for that day there was a dead calm, lay a serpent of black smoke to mark the next ironclads of the Channel Fleet, which hovered in an extended line, steam up and ready for action, across the Thames estuary during the course of the Martian conquest, vigilant and yet powerless to prevent it. At the sight of the sea, Miss Elphinstone, in spite of the assurances of her sister-in-law, gave way to panic. She had never been out of London before. She would rather die than trust herself friendless in a foreign country, and so forth. She seemed, poor woman, to imagine that the French and the Martians might prove very similar. She had been growing increasingly hysterical, fearful, and depressed during the 2 days' journeyings. Her great idea was to return to Stanmore. Things had always been well and safe at Stanmore. They would find George at Stanmore. It was with the greatest difficulty they could get her down to the beach, where presently my brother succeeded in attracting the attention of some men on a paddle steamer from the Thames. They sent a boat and drove a bargain for £36 for the three. The steamer was going, these men said, to Ostend. It was about 2 o'clock when my brother, having paid their fares at the gangway, found himself safely aboard the steamboat with his charges. There was food aboard, albeit at exorbitant prices, and the three of them contrived to eat a meal on one of the seats forward. There were already a couple of score of passengers aboard, some of whom had expended their last money in securing a passage, but the captain lay off the Blackwater until 5 in the afternoon, picking up passengers until the seated decks were even dangerously crowded. He would probably have remained longer had it not been for the sound of guns that began about that hour in the south. As if in answer, the ironclad Seaward fired a small gun and hoisted a string of flags. A jet of smoke sprang out of her funnels. Some of the passengers were of the opinion that this firing came from Shoeburyness, until it was noticed that it was growing louder. At the same time, far away in the southeast, the masts and upper works of 3 ironclads rose one after the other out of the sea, beneath clouds of black smoke. But my brother's attention speedily reverted to the distant firing in the south. He fancied he saw a column of smoke rising out of the distant grey haze. The little steamer was already flapping her way eastward of the big crescent of shipping, and the low Essex coast was growing blue and hazy, when a Martian appeared, small and faint, in the remote distance, advancing along the muddy coast from the direction of Foulness. At that, the captain on the bridge swore, at the top of his voice, with fear and anger at his own delay, and the paddles seemed infected with his terror. Every soul aboard stood at the bulwarks or on the seats of the steamer and stared at that distant shape, higher than the trees or church towers inland, and advancing with a leisurely parody of a human stride. It was the first Martian my brother had seen, and he stood, more amazed than terrified, watching this Titan advancing deliberately towards the shipping, wading farther and farther into the water as the coast fell away. Then, far away beyond the crouch, came another, striding over some stunted trees, and then yet another, still farther off, wading deeply through a shiny mudflat that seemed to hang halfway up between the sea and sky. They were all stalking seaward, as if to intercept the escape of the multitudinous vessels that were crowded between Foulness and the Naze. In spite of the throbbing exertions of the engines of the little paddle boat, and the pouring foam that her wheels flung behind her, she receded with terrifying slowness from this ominous advance. Glancing northwestward, my brother saw the large crescent of shipping already writhing with the approaching terror. One ship passing behind another coming round from broadside to end on, steamships whistling and giving off volumes of steam, sails being let out, launches rushing hither and thither. He was so fascinated by this, and by the creeping danger away to the left, that he had no eyes for anything seaward. And then, a swift movement of the steamboat, she had suddenly come round to avoid being run down, flung him headlong from the seat upon which he was standing. There was a shouting all about him, a trampling of feet, and a cheer that seemed to be answered faintly. The steamboat lurched and rolled him over upon his hands. He sprang to his feet and saw to starboard, and not 100 yards from their heeling, pitching boat, a vast iron bulk, like the blade of a plough, tearing through the water, tossing it on either side in huge waves of foam that leaped towards the steamer, flinging her paddles helplessly in the air and then sucking her deck down almost to the waterline. A douche of spray blinded my brother for a moment. When his eyes were clear again, he saw the monster had passed and was rushing landward. Big iron upperworks rose out of this headlong structure, and from that twin funnels projected and spat, a smoking blast shot with fire. It was the torpedo ram, Thunderchild, steaming headlong, coming to the rescue of the threatened shipping. Keeping his footing on the heaving deck by clutching the bulwarks. I hope I'm saying that right. It looks like bulwarks. Bulwarks. Bulwarks? Keeping his footing on the heaving deck by clutching the bulwarks, my brother looked past this charging Leviathan at the Martians again, and he saw the three of them now close together and standing so far out to sea that their tripod supports were almost entirely submerged. Thus sunken and seen in remote perspective, they appeared far less formidable than the huge iron bulk in whose wake the steamer was pitching so helplessly. It would seem they were regarding this new antagonist with astonishment. To their intelligence, it may be, the giant was even such another as themselves. Were you saying bulwark? I was trying to. I'm not sure if I was saying it correctly. Yes, it was, bulwarks, plural. Yes, plural. But yes, I'm so sorry if I was saying it incorrectly. I tried. Yeah, that sounds about right. I hope so. Bulwarks. Yes, I was close. No. Yes, well, no cigar. We need an alternative for no cigar these days, don't we? I shall do my best to think of one. What's a good alternative? No chocolate frog? Something like that. Oh dear. To their intelligence, it may be... Oh, hello, by the way, Latui. I'm so sorry. Hello, I hope so much you're doing well. It would seem they were regarding this new antagonist with astonishment. Hello. To their intelligence, it may be, the giant was even such another as themselves. The Thunderchild fired no gun, but simply drove full speed towards them. It was probably not her firing that enabled her to get so near the enemy as she did. They did not know what to make of her. One shell and they would have sent her to the bottom forthwith with the heat ray. She was steaming at such a pace that in a minute she seemed halfway between the steamboat and the Martians, a diminishing black bulk against the receding horizontal expanse of the Essex coast. Suddenly, the foremost Martian lowered his tube and discharged a canister of the black gas at the ironclad. It hit her larboard side and glanced off it in an inky jet that rolled away to seaward, an unfolding torrent of black smoke from which the ironclad drove clear. To the watchers from the steamer, low in the water and with the sun in their eyes, it seemed as though she was already among the Martians. They saw the gaunt figures separating and rising out of the water as they retreated shoreward, and one of them raised the camera-like generator of the heat ray. He held it pointing obliquely downward, and a bank of steam sprang from the water at its touch. It must have driven through the iron of the ship's side like a white-hot iron rod through paper. A flicker of flame went up through the rising steam, and then the Martian reeled and staggered. In another moment he was cut down, and a great body of water and steam shot high in the air. The guns of the Thunderchild sounded through the reek, going off one after the other, and one shot splashed the water high close by the steamer, ricocheted towards the other flying ships to the north, and smashed a smack to matchwood. Oh dear, sorry about that. But no one heeded that very much. At the sight of the Martian's collapse, the captain on the bridge yelled inarticulately, and all the crowding passengers on the steamer's stern shouted together. And then they yelled again, for, surging out of the white tumult, drove something long and black, the flames streaming from its middle parts, its ventilators and funnels spouting fire. She was alive still. The steering gear, it seems, was intact and her engines working. She headed straight for a second Martian, and was within 100 yards of him when the heat ray came to bear. Then, with a violent thud, a blinding flash, her decks, her funnels, leaped upward. The Martian staggered with the violence of her explosion, and in another moment the flaming wreckage, still driving forward with the impetus of its pace, had struck him and crumpled him up like a thing of cardboard. My brother shouted involuntarily. A boiling tumult of steam hit everything again. "Two!" yelled the captain. Everyone was shouting. The whole steamer from end to end rang with frantic cheering that was taken up first by one and then by all in the crowding multitude of ships and boats that was driving out to sea. The steam hung upon the water for many minutes, hiding the third Martian and the coast altogether. And all this time the boat was paddling steadily out to sea and away from the fight. And when at last the confusion cleared, the drifting bank of black vapour intervened, and nothing of the Thunder Child could be made out, nor could the third Martian be seen. But the ironclads to seaward were now quite close, and standing in towards shore past the steamboat. The little vessel continued to beat its way seaward, and the ironclads receded slowly towards the coast, which was hidden still by a marbled bank of vapour, part steam, part black gas, eddying and combining in the strangest way. The fleet of refugees was scattering to the northeast. Several smacks were sailing between the ironclads and the steamboat. After a time, and before they reached the sinking cloud bank, the warships turned northward, and then abruptly went about and passed into the thickening haze of evening southward. The coast grew faint, and at last indistinguishable amid the low banks of cloud that were gathering about the sinking sun. Then, suddenly, out of the golden haze of the sunset, came the vibration of guns and a form of black shadows moving. Everyone struggled to the rail of the steamer and peered into the blinding furnace of the west, but nothing was to be distinguished clearly. A mass of smoke rose slanting and barred the face of the sun. The steamboat throbbed on its way through an interminable suspense. The sun sank into grey clouds. The sky flushed and darkened. The evening star trembled into sight. It was deep twilight when the captain cried out and pointed. My brother strained his eyes. Something rushed up into the sky out of the greyness, rushed slantingly upward and very swiftly into the luminous clearness above the clouds in the western sky. Something flat and broad and very large that swept round in a vast curve, grew smaller, sank slowly, and vanished again into the grey mystery of the night. And, as it flew, it rained down darkness upon the land. Okay, that's the end of Book 1 of The War of the Worlds. We're now up to Book 2, The Earth Under the Martians. Okay, so Chapter 1 of Book 2 of The War of the Worlds is called Underfoot. In the first book, I have wandered so much from my own adventures to tell of the experiences of my brother that all through the last 2 chapters I and the curate have been lurking in the empty house at Halliford whither we fled to escape the black smoke. Book 2, woo. We're here. We made it. I am sorry, reading The War of the Worlds is taking rather longer than I had initially anticipated. I guess it's because I saw it was I think it's just under 30,000 words in total, It's like 30,000 words, that's nothing. We can read that in just a few sessions, but we have had a few sessions. Yes, and yes, book 2 is slightly shorter than book 1. So that's a few words. It is, but I suppose I'm used to writing ridiculously long things, so 30,000 words doesn't seem like a huge amount to me. It should, because I should not write so many words in one story. But yes, the reading of it in a manner which is understandable, coherent, they are, what's that, tautology? Understandable, coherent. Is tautology the right word there? The same? No, I don't think it's the right word. They just mean the same thing. I should not use them. Oh, hi, Miss Blue. Hello. Is it Sune? Soon? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. So lovely to see you again, and I'm so sorry I missed you the other day. It was so kind of you to come and try to cross streams with us. That would have been most fun. Maybe another time. Unless this is a time, I'm not sure. Are you streaming too right now? Oh dear. Oh, where am I up to? I just read the first sentence, didn't I? But yes, welcome. You are so welcome here. Okay. So, last 2 chapters, I and the curate have been lurking in the empty house at Halliford, whither we fled to escape the black smoke. Sune. Okay. Hello, Sune. So sorry, my first instinct was to pronounce it Sune, kind of more Japanese style, and then I thought, oh, maybe soon? But Sune. Unfortunately not. That's all good. Maybe another time we can cross streams, just for fun. Just for fun. Where are we? There, I will resume. That makes sense. Power's been crazy. Oh dear. It's no good. I'm sorry about that. Oh dear. Sorry, there's an awful lot of oh dears here, but I believe they are warranted. Okay, here we are. That's a very good sentence to resume on, given it says, there I will resume. There I will resume. We stopped there all Sunday night, and all the next day, the day of the panic, in a little island of daylight, cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. We could do nothing but wait in aching inactivity during those 2 weary days. So what are we doing today? We are reading The War of the Worlds, and we have just started the 2nd book. So, London, Britain has been attacked by Martians. Oh dear, there's been lots of running and panicking and heat rays, tripods, more running, lots of general panic. And the narrator's brother has just escaped on a paddle steamer and watched an ironclad take out a couple of tripods. It was very exciting. Excuse me, sorry. Yes, it's been very exciting. It has 2 books. It does, but they are generally contained in the one work, and I'd kind of view them more as parts, like part 1, part 2. Did the British try giving the Martians tea? I don't think they tried that approach. That would have been a very, very diplomatic thing to do, but I'm not sure the Martians would have accepted. I suppose we'll never know, will we? Although when they did land, yeah, they kind of immediately, once they unscrewed the top, they made it fairly clear that they were not there for tea. Rude aliens, maybe. Yeah, just a bit. Well, refusing tea, taking out the population with a heat ray. I imagine they're on similar levels of rudeness to the British, perhaps. Oh dear. Tea is right up there, I believe, as far as I know. Tea is also rather revered down here in Australia. That's our the British influence on much of us, I'm afraid. Average London day, yeah. So yes, this is the 4th War of the Worlds reading stream. For some reason, the second one in particular got a huge number of views. I'm guessing just a large number of people who like War of the Worlds just happened to be searching it on YouTube then, and just got a bunch of, 10-second or so views or something. So yes, it's rather odd, but that's okay. I shall do my best not to complain about any views. I am grateful for any and all views that people gift to me. Oh dear. But yes, I'm considering after today's stream having a bit of a break from reading The War of the Worlds. Maybe just a few weeks and do something else and then come back and finish up then. It's a fantastic book, but I'm just, concerned people may not be enjoying it, but maybe we just need a bit of a break. Maybe they just got you in recommended like I did, lol. Maybe. It's a possibility. It is. There's a few. It's still sort of astounding to me that I am popping up in recommendations. I'm very lucky so far, it seems. I'm doing a lot better than I was expecting as a streamer already. It's I was fully prepared to stream to the void for a year or so before anyone noticed I was here. So yes, thank you so much for coming and, seeing Blue here. Hello! Just watching random videos and looking random Australian person. Yes, random Australian person. It is me. I hate you. Sorry, I'm looking at YH and I used to do a bit of legal typing and I always just use YH as an abbreviation for Your Honour, so that's the only thing I'm seeing when I see YH. Oh dear. Where am I? My mind was occupied by anxiety for my wife. I figured her at Leatherhead, terrified, in danger, mourning me already as a dead man. I paced the rooms and cried aloud when I thought of how I was cut off from her, of all that might happen to her in my absence. My cousin, I knew, was brave enough for any emergency, but he was not the sort of man to realize danger quickly, to rise promptly. What was needed now was not bravery, but circumspection. My only consolation was to believe that the Martians were moving Londonward and away from her. Ooh, I've been streaming for about a year now and you're doing a heck of a lot better than when I started. Oh dear, a year is a long time, and yes, I was expecting to not do so well for about that time. Goodness me, you've been streaming for a year, that's pretty incredible. You just started recently, right? And since you're at 68 subs. Yes, I started in November last year doing my my National Novel Writing Month project, which was streaming every day, which is why I've got quite so many videos. I built them up in November by streaming every day, trying to pull a bit of a story together. And yes, but it's only since I started streaming roughly 3 times a week with the games and the writing and different things like that I started gathering a few lovely subscribers. So yes, I'm not sure why I'm doing reasonably well. I'm just trying to push on and do things that I find enjoyable, and I hope you do too. I would like to do more writing things, but it's again gathering the confidence and the material to do that. Saturday should be one. To be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anyone doing writing streams, but the one I showed up for was very entertaining. That was the one the other week, wasn't it? The Firebird one. That one took a lot longer than the first one because, yes, I got a little bit stuck there, didn't I? But I think I'm leaning towards the story I'll work on this Saturday. It's a little bit longer than those last two, so hopefully it won't mean the stream goes for a ridiculously long time. But yeah, I think that's the most complete one I've got, so it's probably best to go with that one and not one that is, half written that I have to actually write on stream, which is something I'm working towards. I do promise you, actually properly writing on stream as opposed to editing and pulling something together. But I'm working towards it. Writing on stream sounds hard. I can barely write when people aren't watching. Yes, me too. Yeah, the National Novel Writing Month stream sort of descended into just frantic, note-taking sort of thing. Very detailed notes, but still more notes than actual writing prose. I did in bits and pieces, but I excused myself because, when I do first drafts, it's normally pretty much just a mess of notes. And that's okay. That's how I prefer to get first drafts done. Maybe we can do a type of collab writing stream. That could be fun. We can try to think about that and look into that. Yes, something to think about. But time zones might be a little unkind to us, but I suppose we have wound up streaming at the same time before, so maybe. Oh dear, where am I up to? We're moving Londonward and away from her. Here we are. Such vague anxieties keep the mind sensitive and painful. I grew very weary and irritable with the curate's perpetual ejaculations. I tired of the sight of his selfish despair, and some ineffectual remonstrance. Remonstrance? That's a word, isn't it? After some ineffectual remonstrance, I kept away from him, staying in a room, evidently a children's schoolroom, containing globes, forms, and copybooks. There we go. Oh, streaming at 2 a.m. is simply the best time for sure. But we'd probably have to discuss details beforehand, especially what genre we'd do. Definitely. It would take planning. It would definitely take planning. One fun way that I've heard, I have not tried it, but one fun way that I've heard to write things together is to just take one line at a time and see what happens. Oh dear. Fantasy is the number one drama. Fantasy, definitely. But yes, there is just so much variety in fantasy. I think we just have to do a little bit of discussion first and make sure we're both happy with everything. But we can definitely look into that. That could be fun. Oh, I remember when I had to write collaborative poetry in high school. It was terrible. Oh dear. Collaborative writing projects. I think the only times I really did that was in drama class, and we had to write some scripts as groups. I remember that usually going pretty well. Generally quite warped, but that's not so unusual when this library and people this library hung out with were involved. Yes, but it was fun. I remember it was always fun writing scripts. OMG, that sounds so fun. There's one in particular I remember. I think, what was it? I think we were given a sort of very basic outline about, 7 deadly sins and heaven and hell and along those lines. And I think we wound up making a game show out of it. Yeah. How did we do it again? I think we each took a few scenes and we each wrote a few scenes each and sort of pulled it together, and that was fun. Oh dear, where am I? Here I am. When he followed me thither, I went to a box room at the top of the house, and, in order to be alone with my aching miseries, locked myself in. We were hopelessly hemmed in by the black smoke all that day, and the morning of the next. There were signs of people in the next house on Sunday evening. A face at a window, and moving lights, and later the slamming of a door. But I do not know who these people were, nor what became of them. We saw nothing of them the next day. The black smoke drifted slowly riverward all through Monday morning, creeping nearer and nearer to us, driving at last along the roadway outside the house that hid us. A Martian came across the fields about midday, laying the stuff with a jet of superheated steam that hissed against the walls, smashed all the windows it touched, and scalded the curate's hand as he fled out of the front room. When at last we crept across the sodden rooms and looked out again, the country northward was as though a black snowstorm had passed over it. Looking towards the river, we were astonished to see an unaccountable redness mingling with the black of the scorched meadows. Oh dear, collaborative poetry, it sounds horrible. Poetry is so boring. Solo poetry is already horrifying. Poetry can be wonderful. It's just, it depends on the poet. Yeah, there's what's his name? There's an Australian poet who I think died in the past few years that the Mother Library is hugely fond of. I think his name is Les Murray, and some of his poems are just gorgeous. I know a few good poems, but it's a type of writing I'm not that interested by. That is very fair. It's very fair. I think poetry, I think all different types of poetry, they're all different acquired tastes. So even you might like one kind of poetry and just can't stand any others. It's just so varied. But yes, there's some poems that are just so lovely. I suppose technically we can also really look at song lyrics because they're pretty much poems. Oh dear. For a time we did not see how this change affected our position, save that we were relieved of our fear of the black smoke. But later I perceived that we were no longer hemmed in, that now we might get away. So soon as I realized that the way of escape was open, my dream of action returned. But the curate was lethargic, unreasonable. "We are safe here," he repeated. "Safe here." Well, my taste in poetry consists of random poems I heard in high school. I still very, very vaguely remember a poem I came across. I think it must have been in primary school and in elementary school. I forget what it was called, but it was to do about sitting and writing with a borrowed pen. That's all I remember about it. It was a free form, a free verse one, I think. But I just remember the writing with the borrowed pen. And I'm sure that was from elementary school. Here we are. I resolved to leave him. Would that I had. Wiser now for the artilleryman's teaching, I sought out food and drink. I had found oil and rags for my burns, and also took a hat and a flannel shirt that I found in one of the bedrooms. When it was clear to him that I meant to go alone, had reconciled myself to going alone, he suddenly roused himself to come. And all being quiet throughout the afternoon, we started about 5 o'clock, as I should judge, along the blackened road to Sunbury. In Sunbury, and at intervals along the road, were dead bodies, lying in contorted attitudes, horses as well as men, overturned carts and luggage, all covered thickly with black dust. That pall of cindery powder made me think of what I had read of the destruction of Pompeii. Poems written with a borrowed pen, Tom Paxton. I'm not sure, I'm sorry. I'm really not sure. I'll look that up later and see if that's one. I don't think so. It was what was it? It was in a kind of a compilation of not children's poems, but poems for for younger people. I prefer to just keep my distance from poetry altogether. All of us collectively threw glares at Shakespeare's grave in literature class all through high school. Yes, we had a Shakespeare unit. I wound up with Hamlet, and yes, I didn't mind it really. I did read the whole thing, and I think it's just because I like to I used to memorize lots and lots of text, so I like to sort of memorize it and be able to recite it because that's something I could do, so I like to do it. Oh, and somehow his prose was even worse. Shakespeare was highly overrated. We'll fight every English teacher over this. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, he definitely wrote. And that is, a victory in itself, really. But yes, I imagine a lot of things that are so highly regarded are a little overrated. And there's just so much, I imagine, that none of us will ever see just because it didn't have the same press coverage. Oh dear. Where are we? Here we are. We went through Oshi Park, with its deer going to and fro under the chestnuts, and some men and women hurrying in the distance towards Hampton. And so we came to Twickenham. These were the first people we saw. Oh, I think I know why this book is taking so long, now that I've tuned into one of these streams. Preach. No, usually it's not quite so chatty, but the chattiness is glorious. Please chat. Oh no, it's... Well, I suppose I do my best not to pay attention to the number of people watching, because, it's probably best not to pay too close attention to that. But I think in general there's been little bits of chatting now and then in the previous streams, but not massive amounts. Chat. Yes, please do. It's fun. The only issue is I keep losing my place, which is ridiculous given there's only maybe a paragraph of writing on each page. Here we are. I got to the end of the page. I should have turned it then and there. Here we are. Away across the road, the woods beyond Ham and Petersham were still afire. Twickenham was uninjured by either heat ray or black smoke, and there were more people about here, though none could give us news. For the most part, they were like ourselves, taking advantage of a lull to shift their quarters. I have an impression that many of the houses here were still occupied by scared inhabitants, too frightened even for flight. Here, too, the evidence of a hasty rout was abundant along the road. I remember most vividly 3 smashed bicycles in a heap, pounded into the road by the wheels of subsequent carts. We crossed Richmond Bridge about 8:30. Yeah. Oh, I couldn't read Othello by itself. I basically had to use a type of Shakespearean translation dictionary to read it for my exam. Yes, the style is definitely a challenge. I think for the most part I just sort of let it flow over me. This is fun. I'm glad it's fun. That is a good thing. This pleases Blue very much that it's fun. I used my cursor as a marker. That was intelligent of me. We hurried across the exposed bridge, of course, but I noticed floating down the stream a number of red masses some many feet across. I did not know what these were. There was no time for scrutiny, and I put a more horrible interpretation on them than they deserved. Here we are. I didn't mind the funny old weird talk. I just thought it was boring. Maybe. It's, well, I suppose that's why there's just so many different types of literature, because there's just so many different types of people. I've had more peace of mind in the last few minutes on this stream than I've had in a while since this year began, so thanks for that. You're so welcome, and I'm so sorry if you're having a tough time at the moment. It's not a good thing. So, yes, please extract any peace you can from this. It is yours. Please take it. I marked my place again. Wonderful. Here again on the Surrey side, where black dust. Oh, where black dust. That sounds odd. Should that be was black dust? I'll read the word that's there. I'll assume Mr. Wells and his editors know what they're doing. At least more than, a lot of people who publish books traditionally today. Yes. Need more editing. Or, just need more writing. I don't really like, being mean about traditionally published books that, seem more like indie books because they really needed more work. But it just seems, given the amount of money that's put into traditionally published books, it just seems like it's a waste, and it's, almost taking advantage of both people and authors. People and authors? Authors and readers. Or, just, what's the word? Trying to swindle everyone. I never have this problem. I can't read. Oh dear. Oh dear. Can't read as in you have difficulties reading, or can't read as in just won't, can't, not good. But again, if you don't want to answer, that's not my business. Oh dear. But yes, what are words? Can't read. Indeed, words. How am I even typing? Indeed, it is a mystery that the universes shall ponder, when they get a spare moment. Yeah, I have great difficulty reading, which isn't good for someone who likes to write. But I think I've mentioned before, it's, not just an inferiority thing, but also energy thing. I'm on hold, got to take my ticket for the universe to ponder. The universe has an awful lot on its plate to ponder. We have to be patient with it. It will get to us. It will sufficiently ponder. It will expend sufficient amounts of universal neurons upon our troubles and our mysteries. I'm not sure if it'll come to any conclusion, but it will definitely be intrigued for a while, and I think that's an achievement for all of us, that we have intrigued the universes. Me with a new empty Google Doc every other week when I feel like writing and end up doing nothing. Yes, I haven't done anything proper on my main magical project since when was it? The 3rd of January? Oh dear. And I wanted to finish it this year. I've been working on this for maybe 5 years. I spent all of last year trying to get through the second draft and didn't quite make it. And, I've just realized I'm going to have to go through from the beginning again to make some changes to make it actually work properly. I'm hoping by the time it's actually finished that the next books in the series won't take quite as long. Because it'll never get done if every single one takes 5 years. Oh dear. Okay. Oh, here again. That's how the sentence starts. Oh dear. Here again on the Surrey side were black dust that had once been smoke and dead bodies. A heap near the approach to the station, but we had no glimpse of the Martians. Whoops, here we go. I was not ready to click onto the next page yet. But we had no glimpse of the Martians until we were some way towards Barnes. We saw in the blackened distance a group of 3 people running down a side street towards the river, but otherwise it seemed deserted. Up the hill, Richmond town was burning briskly. Outside the town of Richmond, there was no trace of the black smoke. Any of the works you've written at least quarter way and you'd love to read? You have a few things written for projects, but that's about it. Yay, exchanging writings in chat is a wonderful thing. Yay. Oh dear, where are we? There we are. Don't know how I keep losing my place when there is so little on each page. I'm so sorry. Then, suddenly, as we approached Q, came a number of people running, and the upperworks of a Martian fighting machine loomed in sight over the housetops, not 100 yards away from us. We stood aghast at our danger, and had the Martian looked down, we must immediately have perished. We were so terrified that we dared not go on, but turned aside and hid in a shed in a garden. There the curate crouched, weeping silently and refusing to stir again. But my fixed idea of reaching Leatherhead would not let me rest, and in the twilight I ventured out again. I went through a shrubbery. I'm so sorry, I can never read the word shrubbery without giggling. Thanks, Monty Python. I went through a shrubbery and along a passage beside a big house standing in its own grounds, and so emerged upon the road towards Kew. The curate I left in the shed, but he came hurrying after me. "'Tis but a scratch." Indeed. "'Tis but a flesh wound." And we will not be cutting down any trees in the forest with a herring, because it is silly. We will do no such thing. That second start was the most foolhardy thing I ever did, for it was manifest that the Martians were about us. No sooner had the curate overtaken me than we saw either the fighting machine we had seen before or another, far away across the meadows in the direction of Kew Lodge. 4 or 5 little black figures hurried before it across the grey-green of the field, and in a moment it was evident that the Martian pursued them. In 3 strides he was among them, and they ran radiating from his feet in all directions. He used no heat ray to destroy them, but picked them up, one by one. Apparently he tossed them into the great metallic carrier which projected behind him, much as a workman's basket hangs over his shoulder. It was the first time I realized that the Martians might have any other purpose than destruction with defeated humanity. We stood for a moment petrified, then turned and fled through a gate behind us into a walled garden, fell into, rather than found, a fortunate ditch, and lay there, scarce daring to whisper to each other until the stars were out. Darn you, Sune, you've got me reading cringy old projects I wrote. No, it's wonderful to revisit old work, even if it makes you cringe. It just sees how far you've come. Maybe you can see how you can make some improvements on it. You know, it could invigorate the writing spark again. It's good. It's a wonderful thing. You know, once you can stop cringing, it's a wonderful thing. Here we go. I suppose it was nearly 11 o'clock before we gathered courage to start again, no longer venturing into the road, but sneaking along hedgerows and through plantations, and watching keenly through the darkness, he on the right and I on the left, for the Martians, who seemed to be all about us. In one place we blundered upon a scorched and blackened area, now cooling and ashen, and a number of scattered dead bodies of men, burnt horribly about the heads and trunks, but with their legs and boots mostly intact, and of dead horses, 50 feet perhaps behind a line of 4 ripped guns and smashed gun carriages. Sheen, it seemed, had escaped destruction. but the place was silent and deserted. Here we happened on no dead, though the night was too dark for us to see into the side roads of the place. In Sheen, my companion suddenly complained of faintness and thirst, and we decided to try one of the houses. The first house we entered, after a little difficulty with the window, was a small, semi-detached villa, and I found nothing eatable left in the place but for some mouldy cheese. There was, however, water to drink, and I took a hatchet, which promised to be useful in our next housebreaking. Ooh, yes, I approve. Fills me with joy. Yes. Fills Blue with joy also. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We then crossed to a place where the road turns towards Mortlake. Here there stood a white house within a walled garden, and in the pantry of this domicile we found a store of food, 2 loaves of bread in a pan, an uncooked steak, and half a ham. I give this catalogue so precisely because, as it happened, we were destined to subsist upon this store for the next fortnight. Bottled beer stood under a shelf, and there were 2 bags of haricot beans and some limp lettuces. The pantry opened into a kind of wash-up kitchen, and in this there was firewood. There was also a cupboard in which we found nearly a dozen of burgundy, tinned soups and salmon, and 2 tins of biscuits. We sat in the adjacent kitchen in the dark, for we dared not strike a light, and ate bread and ham and drank beer out of the same bottle. The curate, who was still timorous and restless, was now, oddly enough, for pushing on, and I was urging him to keep up his strength by eating when the thing happened that was to imprison us. Any good ones, though. I'm sure they're all wonderful in their own unique ways. I think it's probably possible to find something wonderful in most writing, so long as it's not being, overtly appalling. But, even if it's from many, many years ago and our writing was perhaps not up to scratch yet, there's still passion. There is passion in it, and passion is something to be admired. Oh dear, because it's so easy to lose motivation, isn't it? No good things. Oh, I think you are being far too harsh on yourself, Latui. Please, be kind to yourself. Try to read your things with an open mind. There's so many times I go back to something which I thought I loved that I wrote, and I read it and I hate it. But then I come back to it again, 2 weeks later in a far better frame of mind, and it's just, oh yeah, this is actually, it's not so bad. But being nice to myself takes way too much effort. Oh dear. It is difficult sometimes, isn't it? Dear. But I think that's something we all need to practice. Practice being kind to ourselves. Well, I suppose we need to practice being kind to everyone too. I think the world is wanting for a bit of kindness these days, particularly the internet world. Have to do our best. Do our best to try to bring some of that to a few people who need it. I know how that feels. Yes. Dear. Okay, so something's about to happen to imprison them there. It can't be midnight yet, I said, and then came a blinding glare of vivid green light. Everything in the kitchen leaped out, clearly visible in green and black, and vanished again. And then followed such a concussion as I have never heard before or since. So close on the heels of this as to seem instantaneous came a thud behind me, a clash of glass, a crash and rattle of falling masonry all about us, and the plaster of the ceiling came down upon us, smashing into a multitude of fragments upon our heads. I was knocked headlong across the floor against the oven handle and stunned. I was insensible for a long time, the curate told me, and when I came to, we were in the darkness again, and he, with a face wet, as I found afterwards, with blood from a cut forehead, was dabbing water on me. For some time I could not recollect what had happened. Then things came to me, slowly. A bruise on my temple asserted itself. Oh dear, poor protagonist. Oh dear, that's dancing for me. It takes an entire day before I can fully say, well, this was actually good. Yeah, it's probably, coming back to my writing and not being happy with it again. It's probably one of the reasons why this book has taken 5 years so far. Yes, the length doesn't help, but yeah, neither does that. But for writing, it's about creating my own worlds. I always have fun doing it. It's wonderful. It's, I suppose writing can be a wonderful place to sort of vent and relax and just, turn ourselves into a world, maybe. Is that sort of what it feels like sometimes? And it's your world that you're creating, but it's all from you, so technically you are the world. Does that work? Well, I suppose blue is a library, so I suppose anyone could be a world too. Oh dear. Too much thinking. Too much pondering of the universes. Next page. Are you better? Asked the curate in a whisper. At last I answered him. I sat up. Don't move, he said. The floor is covered with smashed crockery from the dresser. You can't possibly move without making a noise, and I fancy they are outside. We both sat quite silent, so that we could scarcely hear each other breathing. Everything seemed deadly still, but once something near us, some plaster or broken brickwork, slid down with a rumbling sound. Outside, and very near, was an intermittent metallic rattle. That, said the curate when it presently happened again. Yes, I said, but what is it? A Martian, said the curate. Oh, here. Didn't start out like that, though, but while I compared myself a lot to my best friend, who had far more mature descriptable technique and vocabulary, I was too busy having fun in my world to really care. I think that is perfectly fair. I know some people who just prefer the world-building process over writing itself and creating the worlds in incredible detail. 5 years, I'm on 7. I hope I don't catch you. Yes, that's one particular story. I've got, oh goodness me, a bunch of others going on 15 years, which I would like to get back to at one point so badly. But yes, going on 8. It's just so hard to stick with one project that I wind up thinking of so many more and bouncing between them, and nothing gets done and everything winds up languishing for so many years. But, still thought about now and then, and little bits and pieces added. And, hope rekindled that perhaps it will finally get written, but not quite now. So going on 8 years due to many circumstances. Circumstances aren't kind, are they? They aren't. Sorry. Too many sighs, too many oh dears, but I suppose that's just what I do. Oh dear. I'm sorry it is taking you so long. I hope it will happen. I really wish all the stories could just happen without so much of the effort we need to put behind it. Not that I don't want to put effort into writing, it's just the, the wishful thinking that my story could somehow miraculously be done, finally, after all these years. But it will definitely be some time yet. She gets it. To an extent, at least. We're struggling along very, very similar paths, it seems. But yes, It's a lot. It's a lot. You know, I start panicking every time I think of a new story. It's like, I do not need new ideas. I do not need new ideas. I am not lacking in ideas. I am lacking in time. I'm lacking in energy. I'm lacking in occasionally motivation due to lacking time and energy. Oh, most stories I have are stuck in the dense brick I call a head, because writing is hard. Writing is hard. It's... Oh dear. Sometimes I do wonder why. Why am I doing this? And it's just, I decided I wanted to be a writer when I was 8, and once I make up my mind, apparently I'm very stubborn. But I do. I love my stories, and I want so much to share them with you. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Average Australian. Indeed, indeed. Oh, here we are. I listened again. It was not like the heat ray, I said, and for a time I was inclined to think one of the great fighting machines had stumbled against the house, as I had seen one stumble against the tower of Shepperton Church. Our situation was so strange and incomprehensible that for 3 or 4 hours until the dawn came we scarcely moved. And then the light filtered in, not through the window, which remained black, but through a triangular aperture between a beam and a heap of broken bricks in the wall behind us. The interior of the kitchen we now saw greyly for the first time. The window had been burst in by a mass of garden mould, which flowed over the table upon which we had been sitting and lay about our feet. Outside, the soil was banked high against the house. At the top of the window frame, we could see an uprooted drain pipe. The floor was littered with smashed hardware. The end of the kitchen towards the house was broken into, and since the daylight shone in there, it was evident the greater part of the house had collapsed. Yeah. Maybe when we do the collab stream you can give me some ideas as well, or at least you can talk about some of your book ideas and we can discuss and give you additional ideas on what to do, you know, helping a fellow writer out. Ooh, you guys would have such fun doing that. You should definitely do that. As long as you're both comfortable with it. Oh dear. Oh, yes. And when you do, can you leave a comment with a link to it so I can look too? Oh, dear. Where are we? Contrasting vividly with this ruin was the neat dresser, stained in the fashion, pale green, and with a number of copper and tin vessels below it. The wallpaper imitating blue and white tiles, and a couple of coloured supplements fluttering from the walls above the kitchen range. As the dawn grew clearer, we saw through the gap in the wall the body of a Martian, standing sentinel, I suppose, over the still glowing cylinder. At the sight of that we crawled as circumspectly as possible out of the twilight of the kitchen into the darkness of the scullery. Oh, I'm just sitting here editing random high school story. Yay! I'm so glad you're currently doing that. It's wonderful to sort of share writing and be writing in the sort of vicinity of other people. Because, I suppose I enjoy the idea of that so much because growing up there weren't really many other people around me who were particularly avid writers, so it was a long time before I could actually talk to many people who were writers as well. HS is high school. I actually meant all 3 of us though. Oh, okay. Well, yes, all 3. Wow. That's intense. Yeah. I don't know what other countries call high school. There's high school, there's secondary school. I'm not sure of many others. Yes, if you'd like to share, Latui, what is the story you're currently editing about? Just what's the term? Not horrible synopsis, but dear, I saw this term the other day, but I can't remember what it is. You call it secondary school over here. Okay. Yes, I'm pretty sure high school and secondary school are interchangeable. Oh, the one I'm editing is just some school, and we had to write about a wedding. Ooh, okay. Is this any speculative things added in there, or it's strictly normal wedding only? Some school project. Oh dear. Weddings can be fairly intense things to write about. Of course, the first one that comes to mind is, of course, the red wedding. What was it? I think I was up to I was halfway through the second Game of Thrones book when I got up to the red wedding in the television show, and I think it upset me so much that I stopped reading. I'll maybe keep going with them one day, but yes, I was enjoying them, but there was something that just wasn't quite pulling me in the way some other things do, which is fine. They're well written, and clearly, ridiculous amounts of world building in those. Oh no, weddings are so boring. I did a story of a group heading to a wedding. Also interesting. The trip there, the relationships, just weird stuff that could be going on behind the scenes. Do I have any weddings in any of my stories? I think that... Oh, yeah, there's supposed to be at least one big wedding in my high fantasy. And possibly a few other more low-key ones. But, yeah, not in my main magical project. There's too much going on in that for weddings. What weddings did you go to? I've only been to like a few. I went to a family wedding in December, so that was nice. Yes, it was lovely and simple and to the point, which is good. It was lovely. Oh dear, it also rained a lot, as in storming, so that sort of only improved it. It was fantastic. Oh dear. Where are we? The body of the Martian. At the sight of that, we crawled out as circumspectly as possible, out of the twilight of the kitchen and into the darkness of the scullery. Abruptly, the right interpretation dawned upon my mind. "The fifth cylinder," I whispered. "The fifth shot from Mars that has struck this house and buried us under the ruins." For a time the curate was silent, and then he whispered, "God have mercy upon us." Yeah. And the only story that's actually finished of mine is for some reason medieval or medieval fantasy. There's definitely a market for medieval fantasy. Medieval fantasy is fun. I do remember going through that particular high school phase when reading as many medieval history books as I could. I mean, most of them were sort of children's books with lovely drawings of knights and such, but I remember reading the same one over and over again. Weddings have the potential to have the most absolutely insane amounts of drama, Murphy's Law, and conflict than basically any other mundane event on the planet. I think you may be right there. Thankfully, that did not happen at my at the family wedding I went to. But yes, so much could be going on behind the scenes that can just break out. And oh, goodness me. Okay. I heard him presently whispering to himself. Save for that sound, we lay quite still in the scullery. I, for my part, scarce dared breathe, and sat with my eyes fixed on the faint light of the kitchen door. I could just see the curate's face, a dim oval shape, and his collar and cuffs. Outside there began a metallic hammering, then a violent hooting, and then again, after a quiet interval, a hissing, like the hissing of an engine. These noises, for the most part problematical, continued intermittently, and it seemed, if anything, to increase in number as time wore on. Presently, a measured thudding and a vibration that made everything about us quiver and the vessels in the pantry ring and shift began and continued. Once the light was eclipsed, and the ghostly kitchen doorway became absolutely dark. For many hours we must have crouched there, silent and shivering until our tired attention failed. At last I found myself awake and very hungry. I am inclined to believe we must have spent the greater portion of a day before that awakening. My hunger was at a stride so insistent that it moved me to action. I told the curate I was going to seek food and felt my way towards the pantry. He made me no answer, but so soon as I began eating, the faint noise I made stirred him up and I heard him crawling after me. The amount of things that can go wrong can give way to hilarious comedic moments, high-stakes confrontations, and people swearing to never speak to themselves ever again. Great stuff for reading anyway. Might not be so fun in real life. Yeah, so I think that's why weddings probably pop up so much in things like romantic comedies too, because there's just so much potential material there. Just so many places characters can clash. Two people haven't seen each other for so long, who have, history, or people who have already sworn never to speak to each other again but wind up at a friend's wedding and didn't know the other was going to be there. There's just so much that could happen, you're right. You're writing fiction, so who cares? Indeed. Oh dear. Well, given the wedding in my high fantasy, yeah, there's a lot of circumstances in that kingdom around that time. So yes, I imagine, there could be a lot of drama from, ranging from a slap in the face to a civil war. So yes, when I get back to that story, famous last words, she'll have to think more about that. Here we are. Let's go war. Well, there's sort of war looming, lots of pre-war, civil war, rumblings, and, definitely plenty of assassination attempts and attempts to take over and all of that. But that's just sort of par for the course. But yes, the wedding itself could actually be a breaking point because, yeah, the king is not actually marrying someone most people want her to marry. It's... yeah. Yeah. But the guy she's marrying, he's precious. He's one of my favorite characters that I've created. He's a good kid. He is. He tries very hard. He's going to make a very, very good royal consort. He'll do a lovely job. It's just a lot of people don't like him because he's usually, very happily in the position of being either adored or abhorred, and he's very happy to sort of have that reaction both ways. Oh dear. I'm wondering whether to read the next chapter or to call it there, given it's been going for an hour and a half. I suppose I'm feeling all right. And if you're all feeling all right, do you reckon we should go for one more chapter? This is chapter 2, what we saw from the ruined house. He's a happy little attention lover. He is in many ways. In some ways, the parts of him he wants to hide, he definitely doesn't want anyone to pay attention to. But for the most part, very happy in the spotlight. And very usefully sort of using that to, take attention away from some certain other things going on. Making it easier for the future king to sort of tackle other things while he's holding the attention. Yes, the main character of my main magical project is a bit of an attention seeker too. I suppose he and he and Mr. Lovely Royal Consort from the High Fantasy do have a few similarities. It may become a little obvious what my favourite character traits are. Oh dear. We are so sorry. Oh dear. Yeah. So maybe making characters is fun. I mean, we can try. Writing them into things is terrible. Yeah, it's... I still actually remember for the high fantasy sitting down with one of my siblings and just sort of finally giving them names. I've been playing with them for ages and was so happy with them, but I hadn't actually named them yet. So I do remember, I remember the naming process, and it was just beautiful. But this was when I was still using sort of actual names from and being inspired by actual languages instead of trying to do conlangs and making sure the names sound like they're from the language being used in this world. But I love the names in the high fantasy so much, I don't really want to change them. So hopefully that won't be too much of a big deal. They're mainly Old Norse based and Persian based. My naming process is just, yeah, that's a cool name, let's use that. That can work very well as well. There are no rules. There are no rules. I actually find myself being annoyed sometimes when character names have too much meaning behind them. Like, the parents of this child did not know this kid was going to go on to become a hero sort of thing. Isn't this name just a little bit too convenient? Really, watching my different characters' interactions with each other can be hilarious. Yes, I'm a particular fan of banter, particularly sibling banter. Or friends who are like siblings banter. So you can get lots of fun stuff out of that. Sorry. Just tired. But I think... Kid named the chosen hero of random fantasy continent. Yes, it's a very, very specific name. These parents had extraordinary foresight. Oh dear, I prefer to just sort of... You know, I know several intense world builders who create their own conlangs and stuff in just amazing ways, and I'm just, overawed by how they can pull that off. I don't have the patience. I mean, if I did that, this would be, my stories would never ever get written, as opposed to never get written. But there's a fantasy conlang generator that I like to use to sort of get sort of what the language will sound like, and so I can make names that sound like it comes from that particular world. Because, yes, I don't like names in, fantasy stories in particular sounding like they're just plucked out of thin air. I want them to sound like they're grounded in that world, because I think just that little thing can sort of really help with immersion. Oh dear. Here we are. I think we'll just read one more chapter and then call it. I am a little tired. What time is it over there? It is about 20 minutes to midnight. So not as late as I frequently go, but yes, I wasn't feeling particularly well. I'm feeling actually much better now, so thank you for that. I'm pretty sure it's due to the lovely chat that I'm feeling so much better. Yes. Oh, it's about 20 minutes to 7 a.m. here. Oh my very goodness me. 7 a.m. I am sorry. I wish I could find a better time to stream. But with the small one during the day, it's just... not really viable to stream during daylight hours for me. It's just no good. Have not slept because sleeping is boring. You do not have exciting dreams? That's sad. I mean, I suppose dreams can sometimes be pretty intense too, but they're good for story ideas. I don't dream. Oh dear. I don't remember them. I think that's because I think everyone does go through the REM sleep. Yeah, everyone does REM sleep, but I think lots of people can't remember any dreams. A lot of the time I can't anymore. Now and then I do, and I'm generally quite happy when I do because I do enjoy it, but I can't lucid dream. Like, generally now I'm not aware I'm dreaming when I dream. I think I used to very, very slightly lucid dream. I used to be aware I was in dreams occasionally, but I couldn't adjust them myself. But I've heard some people can sort of sculpt their dreams around them, which sounds incredible. And I'd love to try it if my brain let me, but it does not. All right, what about you, Miss Blue? You on Discord? I am indeed. I believe I'm under Moon Feather Blue, as is my handle most everywhere, I think. 90% of the dreams I remember are just, well, this is indistinguishable from my actual life. That might almost be non-REM sleep, because I think non-REM sleep, you can sort of have dreams, but it's more like just being aware of your thinking as you're asleep. Like, I think I used to go over exams or something in my non-REM sleep. Oh, it's 1:40 p.m. right now here. Well, I'd say that's a good time to watch a stream, but I suppose it depends on what you do during the day, doesn't it? Oh dear. Sorry, head is drifting between the chat and the page, and like, what am I doing right now? Yes, 3 different time zones is a lot. Well, it's never things that happened or memories, it's just stuff that isn't really all that strange. Yeah, just mundane stuff. Though I'm a fan of trying to find the magical in the mundane, but I don't think non-REM sleep is the place to try to do it. I've dreamed about just being in class. Oh dear. Well, I suppose so long as it's not the nightmares that people get about schools. I still get school related nightmares, sadly. You know, I forgot to do this for school, I didn't study for this, and then there's the awful one where it's not just with the school things, but when I can't stop clenching my teeth and my teeth start falling out, that's fun. I don't recall the last time I've had a nightmare. The majority of my dreams these days are generally young adult dystopian based, which possibly explains a lot of my content in my writing. But yes, lots of dystopian style dreams. And, you know, not realizing they're dreams until I wake up, but still sort of being fairly, you know, nonchalant about the whole situation in the dream. Oh, I do have this thing where when I'm really tired, like I see a face when I close my eyes. I'm really not sure what to think about closing your eyes and what people see. Because when I close my eyes, I see blackness. You know, occasional sort of weird light shifting things. But essentially, close eyes, darkness. But I've heard that some people actually see things in full color when they close their eyes, that they can actually see with their mind, sort of with their eyes closed. And I don't know what that's about. That sounds incredible to me. Yeah, I get that too. You can spin the apple. You can spin the apple. I can't spin the apple. I had no idea what the teachers were sort of talking about when they were talking us through that thing. I'm like, visualize an apple. It's like, I'm thinking about an apple. I'm thinking about the concept of an apple, but I can't spin it. What are you talking about? Yeah, that confused me because poor Blue was a very conscientious student and she didn't like the idea that she couldn't do what was being asked of her. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. One more chapter. I'm so sorry. Chapter 2, What We Saw from the Ruined House. After eating, we crept back to the scullery, and there I must have dozed again, for when presently I looked around, I was alone. The thudding vibration continued with wearisome persistence. I whispered for the curate several times. and at last felt my way to the door of the kitchen. It was still daylight, and I perceived him across the room, lying against the triangular hole that looked out upon the Martians. His shoulders were hunched, so that his head was hidden from me. Blue, what? Teeth? Yeah, it's just this... yeah, maybe it's an unconscious fear sort of thing of just being unable to stop clenching my jaw. But sometimes when dreaming, it's stuck and I can't get it out. It's just so tough and hard. The teeth just start falling right out there. I thought the teeth falling out dream was reasonably common. I think it popped up in Inside Out, the Pixar film, during the when they were making one of the main character's dreams. I'm sure they had the teeth falling out there. Certainly is one of the fears of all time. Yeah, and another weird one I've got is knees going backwards. Just, stepping in the wrong way and just the entire leg going the wrong way. I do not want that. I imagine not many people want that, but I think about it an unusual amount. Oh dear. I could hear a number of noises almost like those in an engine shed, and the place rocked with that beating thud. Through the aperture in the wall, I could see the top of a tree touched with gold, and the warm blue of a tranquil evening sky. I jumped a bit ahead with that sky there. For a minute or so I remained watching the curate, and then I advanced, crouching and stepping with extreme care amid the broken crockery that littered the floor. Spin the apple, is that a dream thing? Spin the apple. It's supposed to be some sort of... I'm not even sure what it's meant to show, because they seem to assume that everyone could do it, which they can't. Just because everyone sort of sees, in inverted commas, in their heads differently, and people who can sort of actually see images in your mind. And I think I can vaguely, but it takes a lot of work for me to do it. I do concepts, but I can't quite actually see the images in my head, or at least I don't think I can, because it doesn't seem to line up with what people who can say it should be. And so, yes, I'm thinking about the apple, but, can't see it, and therefore can't spin it properly, except I can think about spinning it, but I can't actually spin it. Oh, Blue, do you have an internal narrator? I'm pretty sure I do. Is that the voice in my head that just won't shut up? My constant stream of consciousness in words? Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I hope that didn't blast you. Yes. I am the internal narrator. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I question whether or not I actually do, or if it's just sort of a blast of, not actual words, but concepts. But I'm pretty sure most of it's in words. Like when you read, you hear it. It's difficult. When you say hear it, do you mean actually sort of hear it as though with your ears, even though there's actually nothing aloud? Or, because I don't think I do that. Well, it did spin, but then it broke out into a dance. Dancing apples everywhere. For your entertainment. Yes, it's difficult to tell what people mean when they say hear and see when you're thinking about the mind, because everything is different to everyone, so you're not sure if your see and hear is quite the same as someone else's see or hear. It doesn't mean hearing things in a literal sense. Okay, yes, then I think I do then. Yes, I think I automatically want to take things literally. Oh dear, like my reading voice in my head isn't even my voice. The apple grew tiny arms and legs and started jazzing around. I love how we can have two completely different conversations at once and everything's absolutely fine. Yes, if your reading voice in your head, it's not you. Do you know who it is? Is it someone you know, or just an invented or invented just a subconscious voice. Bluey's multitasking conversations. It's an achievement. I'm not much of a multitasker, to be honest with you. Whether it needs to be for what I'm reading. Ooh, cool. I think I used to stick various, what was it? The anime dubbing voice actors who got around in the late 90s, early noughties. I used to sort of attach them to some things I was reading just for fun. You do that too. Oh dear. I touched the curate's leg, and he started so violently that a mass of plaster went sliding down outside and fell with a loud impact. I gripped his arm, fearing he might cry out, and for a long time we crouched motionless. Then I turned to see how much of our rampant remained. The detachment of the plaster had left a vertical slit open in the debris, and by raising myself cautiously across a beam, I was able to see out of this gap into what had been overnight a quiet suburban roadway. Vast indeed was the change that we beheld. You do that too, different voices for different characters. Oh, the fifth cylinder must have fallen right into the midst of the house we had first visited. The building had vanished, completely smashed, pulverized and dispersed by the blow. The cylinder lay now far beneath the original foundations, deep in a hole already vastly larger than the pit I had looked into at Woking. The earth all around it had splashed under that tremendous impact. Splashed is the only word, and lay in heaped piles that hid the masses of the adjacent houses. It had behaved exactly like mud under the violent blow of a hammer. Our house had collapsed backward. The front portion, even on the ground floor, had been destroyed completely. By a chance, the kitchen and scullery had escaped, and stood buried now under soil and ruins, closed in by tons of earth on every side save towards the cylinder. Over that aspect we hung now, on the very edge of the great circular pit the Martians were engaged in making. The heavy beating sound was evidently just behind us, and ever and again a bright green vapour drove up like a veil across our peephole. The cylinder was already opened in the centre of the pit, and on the farther edge of the pit, amid the smashed and gravel-heaped shrubbery, one of the great fighting machines, deserted by its occupant, stood stiff and tall against the evening sky. At first I scarcely noticed the pit and the cylinder, although it had been convenient to describe them first, on account of the extraordinary glittering mechanism I saw busy in the excavation, and on account of the strange creatures that were crawling slowly and painfully across the heaped mould near it. The mechanism it certainly was that held my attention first. It was one of those complicated fabrics that have since been called handling machines, and the study of which has already given such an enormous impetus to terrestrial invention. As it dawned upon me first, it presented a sort of metallic spider with 5 jointed, agile legs, and with an extraordinary number of jointed levers, bars, and reaching and clutching tentacles about its body. Most of its arms were retracted, but with 3 long tentacles it was fishing out a number of rods, plates, and bars which lined the covering and apparently strengthened the walls of the cylinder. These, as it extracted them, were lifted out and deposited upon a level surface of earth behind it. Its motion was so swift, complex, and perfect that at first I did not see it as a machine in spite of its metallic glitter. The fighting machines were coordinated and animated to an extraordinary pitch, but nothing to compare with this. People who have never seen these structures, and have only the ill-imagined efforts of artists or the imperfect descriptions of such eyewitnesses as myself to go upon, scarcely realize that living quality. What's with fiction and using tentacles or spiders for alien creatures? Because tentacles and spiders are fun. Oh, yes. I am guilty of the occasional tentacle myself in my alien monsters. Not in the actual aliens themselves. My aliens in my main magical project are very tall and thin and willowy with what was it, 7 eyes, pointed chins, sort of. What's the term for the kind of legs that is it? It's not retroactive, is it? The oh, funnily enough, the backwards facing knees. And was it claws? Lots of claws. But when they become monsters, they become all different types of monsters depending on different factors, and one or two have indeed had tentacles. Yes, there's one particularly squiddy-like one that will be near the beginning of book 2. I don't think there's any actual tentacles in book 1. We will have to wait for our tentacles. Maybe people just don't like squids and octopi. A natural sort of fear. I guess it's because maybe this squiddy octopusy tentacles and spiders are just so different from human form. It's just maybe even almost body horror like. I'm not sure. Just, what's the term? Invokes a visceral sort of reaction. They do look otherworldly sometimes. I mean, the closest we have to aliens, that weird things at the ocean. The ocean is terrifying. Keep Blue away from the ocean. It's beautiful, but I will keep my distance as much as I can. And spiders are terrifying, indeed. It's I forget where I heard this, but isn't it true that we know more about space than we do about the bottom of the ocean? Which is a wild thought, but I cannot back it up because I cannot remember where I heard it, sorry. Spiders are something. They are. Oh dear. One dropped out of the mobile in my small one's bedroom the other day and just flumped to the floor. It wasn't massive, but it was, enough that I wanted it out of there. Spiders are something, so it's a win. I believe so, yeah, so it's a win. But, yes, I did try to get the spider out alive because I'm not really a fan of squashing insects when I can shift them without, murdering them. But I'm not sure if I succeeded. The spider was very sort of hunched and huddled up by the time I tossed it into the garden. I recall particularly the illustration of one of the first pamphlets to give a consecutive account of the war. The artist had evidently made a hasty study of one of the fighting machines, and there his knowledge ended. He presented them as tilted, stiff tripods without either flexibility or subtlety, and with an altogether misleading monotony or effect. The pamphlet containing these renderings had a considerable vogue, and I mention them here simply to warn the reader against the impression they may have created. They were no more like the Martians I saw in action than a Dutch doll is like to a human being. To my mind, the pamphlet would have been much better without them. Oh, spiders make you... Oh, dear. Luckily it's winter right now, so we aren't seeing too many bugs. Yes, it is summer here. It's, this summer's been rather hot for where I am. It's normally meant to be a little cooler than it is, but we get a lot of crawly things in this house. This is rather an old house, which I imagine has many openings to the outside, which I am not aware of. And, yes, I recently I took a coat hanger around the house and sort of wrapped up as many of the cobwebs hanging in the corners as I could find, but I've already found more, so I'll have to get on that again. Oh, dear. I think my house is like 1800s kind of old. I think of 1800s. This one is nowhere near that old. I think this one is more 1960s. Yeah, so old enough. But, so you think you've heard that that we know more about space and the ocean? Yes, it's terrifying, the thought that we do know more about space and the ocean. The ocean is so scary. And you know, that's just the fish for me. I don't like the fish. Hi. Oh, hi, Elfie. Hello. It's so lovely to see you. I'm glad I didn't... Oh, and Tofu Trash too. Hello. So lovely to see you all. I'm glad I didn't stop early. I was considering stopping around 11:30. I'm so glad I didn't. It's wonderful to see you. So, I'm in an 1800s campus below freezing, so I'm living the best of both worlds. Hi, hello, hello. And you're back from school now. How was school? Did you get useful things done? I hope so. I love freezing. I like freezing when I'm dressed for it. It indeed beats being cooked. It's you know, I'm sort of stuck in the odd space where I grew up in the subtropics, and I loved where I grew up, and I miss where I grew up. I do not miss cooking where I grew up. Though I do miss, you know, the thunderstorms. I miss the thunderstorms, but that might be it. Oh dear. Elfie. Oh dear, what did I get up to? The pamphlets with the terrible drawings of the tripods. This is where we're up to. And we're having lovely, lovely chats this stream, so please continue with the lovely, lovely chats. And I will jump in here and there as I read. We just want to try to finish this chapter before finishing up for the evening. But we did only just start this chapter, so there's a little while yet. Hey, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Oh... They not be monsoons in the subtropics, or do I need to brush up on geography? I'm not sure. We've always just I mean, I don't like tropical cyclones. That's what we call hurricanes or typhoons here. No, the tropical cyclones aren't fun, but just sort of the more regular. I love me a gentle thunderstorm, although there haven't been too many gentle thunderstorms of late. They're always, you know, hell's hammer and rain these days, unfortunately. I'll take 0 Fahrenheit over 100 Fahrenheit every day. 18 over 38 for the rest of the world, I think. Yeah, definitely 18 over 38. Negative 18. I'm not sure about negative 18. As long as I'm dressed for it, I'd probably take it over 38 degrees Celsius. But again, as long as I'm dressed for it. We have many blankets and possibly a lovely fire going. I just got traumatized by a biology class and had my brother be called a fat Oompa Loompa. That's awful. I'm so sorry. I like the cold. I live in a cold place. Well, that works then, if you're cold and live in a cold place. I'm sorry things weren't great today, Elfie. It's awful. And I'm sorry brothers being treated like that. It's unacceptable. People have no right to be so nasty. Oh dear. And I'm sorry, yes, traumatized by biology. Is that, Oh, you got vengeance. I'll take it that's a good thing. I just hope it wasn't too bloody. Hi, good evening. Hello, hello. No, sorry, I want to read everyone's names correctly, so I just want to stop and stare at it to make sure I get as close to possible. Noe Porcallan? Is it Noe? Hi, good evening. So lovely to see you again. We are just finishing up a chapter of War of the Worlds, but we have only just started the chapter, so there's still a fair bit of time to go. Thank God you never took biology. You were also traumatized by biology. And it was a biology major. Oh dear. Oh, the bad guy got detention. Good job, good job. Oh dear. And very cold during winter and hot during summer. Oh dear. This place is fun. The chat is getting to be so wonderful right now, but if I keep reading all of it, I'm not sure I'll get through this chapter. So if you guys want to keep chatting in this glorious fashion, and I'll keep reading and jump in occasionally. I'm glad everyone's having a wonderful time chatting. This really makes this library glow. It does. Oh dear. If I notice anything juicy, I will jump in and read it out. I'm sure everything is juicy and wonderful, but yes, if, for example, the manner of the detention, if we learn this, I will read it out. No pressure on Elfie if you don't want to reveal it. Ooh, pizza. Oh dear, I could do with pizza. No pineapple. No pineapple. No, I believe the saying goes, people who eat pineapple on their pizza, you are weak, your bloodline is weak, and you will not survive the winter. Oh dear, it's pronounced no, as in we the people. So no we. Okay. No we. I will try my best to remember. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. It is so lovely to see all of you again, and even better to see all of you together. Blasphemy. Yes, will not survive the winter. Okay, here we go. At first, I say, the handling machine did not impress me as a machine, but as a crab-like creature with a glittering... Oh, goodness me, what's this word? Integument? Integument. Give me a moment, sorry. Integument, a tough outer protective layer, especially that of an animal or a plant. That's a very good word, but not one that I would recognize straight away. Oh dear, it's winter right now, I won't survive. This is so sad. So very sad indeed. But you might survive should you renounce the pineapple. But the question remains, will you renounce the pineapple? Sorry. That was possibly a little too evil. Okay, with the glittering integument, the protective hard shell like on a plant or an animal, the controlling Martian whose delicate tentacles actuated its movements, seeming to be simply the equivalent of the crab's cerebral portion. But then I perceived the resemblance of its grey-brown, shiny, leathery integument to that of the other sprawling bodies beyond, and the true nature of this dexterous workman dawned upon me. Blue has doomed me to death. Pineapples are actually disgusting. I am glad to hear it. As we know, Blue does not do fruit, except the very few exceptions. I'm sure it's wonderful to the people who like it, but as we said, very sad they're not going to survive the winter. Pineapple belongs on pizza and I've survived on negative 32 degrees Celsius. An aberration. Oh no. Oh dear. And Noe says, can you summarize the story to me as of now? I've never seen or heard The War of the Worlds. Okay. Well, we're over halfway through the book, but there's, a lot happens without actually a lot happening, I think. Pineapples are my rival. Martians from Mars shot at the Earth in cylinder-like things. All landed in Britain for some reason. I'm not quite sure of the plan. The plan here, really. But, yes. Came out of the cylinders, started toasting everyone nearby with heat rays, built giant fighting machine tripods to stalk around and, shoot people with heat rays more efficiently, given their bodies aren't really designed for the Earth's gravity. Yes, general mass panic through Britain, the rout of civilization, the massacre of mankind, all that jazz. And they've just succeeded in pretty much scattering the entire population of London, so people are everywhere. People who aren't dying now seem to be being picked up by the Martians and put in baskets. What to do with them, to what fate, we don't know yet. And main character is currently in the crushed remnants of a house where he and another guy who's a bit annoying. Yes, they're currently trapped in that because the cylinder landed half on top of it. And yes, and we saw a bit from his brother's point of view as to what was going on in London. There's an awful lot of place names mentioned, so I imagine those more familiar with the British countryside and towns might get a bit more out of that. But yes, the great-grandparent of alien invasion stories, so we respect it. We respect. Oh dear, yes. Martians invading the Earth. I love citrus drinks, but so many citrus drinks for some reason have pineapple and they never tell you. And you buy it and it's gross. Not an ordinary winter. This winter carries retribution. I see like the documentary on the History Channel, like the World War One alien invasion. There was an alien invasion in World War One. I have not heard this. Half on top how, and I love early sci-fi. All of London as opposed to today's sci-fi is often on a planet scale, if not galaxy. Yeah. Actually, in my my main magical project with the alien invasion, it's all starting off in the one city, just because they're sort of building up strength and sort of getting everything together. So it's all focused just on the one city and that one too. Wait, was it only London that got invaded? No real loss then, we're all good. Well, they are specific to say in the story that there's only 10 cylinders that are sort of fired one night after the other from Mars. And so far, at least 5 of them have landed scattered across Britain, all pretty concentrated in the areas where the main character is. So, yes, at the moment it seems Britain or England or that area seems to be everywhere that's getting invaded at the moment. So I'm not sure if much of the rest of the world is really particularly affected before things start to go south for the Martians. But let's not go that way yet in case people aren't hugely familiar with the story. We won't talk about who wins or whatnot yet. But yes, after tonight's stream I was planning on having a break from reading The War of the Worlds for a couple of weeks and figure out a few other things we can do on stream. I was considering doing another typing stream next week, even though I haven't gotten a new keyboard yet, and I doubt very highly I'll beat the personal best I set last time, but yeah, I think it might be about time for another typing stream. The use of the crab forms is interesting, because even on Earth we have customization where it's different species converge into the crab form. I guess aliens do that too. I think I've heard some lovely world building folks talking a bit about customization recently. It is interesting. Holding thumbs for Sweden to survive. I'm sure Sweden survives. What's your record for typing? I think it's 80, but my average is 120. My last record that I set, this is using a particular typing test online, and last typing stream I got 148 twice in a row, and one of them I think without mistakes, so not too bad. Oh, I think it's set in like the early 2000s. Your record, goddamn. I want to get to at least 160 just to say I can. My job used to be typing based, so oh dear. Used to do daily typing tests just for fun. Yeah, it is fun. I think I started getting, because the typing test I'm using for these things, it's just random common words. I think I prefer to be typing sentences, but you know, if I do that, my score will probably drop for a while I get used to it again. Oh dear. Where am I up to? Sorry. Oh, here I am. There we are. With that realization, my interest shifted to those other creatures, the real Martians. Already, I had had a transient impression of these, and the first nausea no longer obscured my observation. Moreover, I was concealed and motionless and under no urgency of action. They were, I now saw, the most unearthly creatures it is possible to conceive. They were huge, round bodies, or rather heads, about 4 feet in diameter, each body having in front of it a face. This face had no nostrils. Indeed, the Martians did not seem to have had any sense of smell, but it had a pair of very large, dark-coloured eyes, and just beneath this, a kind of fleshy beak. In the back of this head or body, I scarcely know how to speak of it, was the single tight tympanic surface, since known to be anatomically an ear, though it must have been almost useless in our dense air. In a group around the mouth were 16 slender, almost whip-like tentacles arranged in 2 bunches of 8 each. These bunches have since been named rather aptly by that distinguished anatomist, Professor Howes, the hands. Even as I saw these Martians for the first time, they seemed to be endeavouring to raise themselves on these hands, but of course with the increased weight of the terrestrial conditions, this was impossible. Oh dear. 120 days daily. Are you reading an ebook or a physical one? I'm reading an ebook on my desktop. I had intended to read a physical copy because I wanted to have the lovely sounds of the pages turning, but it turned out I did not have a copy. I thought I did, but it's unfortunately not on my shelves. Yeah. 120 words per minute. You do the words daily. WPM, words per minute. Yes, yes. No, it's not lack of knowledge. It's just, you get used to using these terms if you do the typing a lot, but if you don't, you don't. Oh dear. But yes, I would like to do another typing stream next week. Maybe on the I'm probably going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays again next week, most likely. So I might aim to do the typing one on Wednesday next week. Could be fun. We're not sure of your typing time. If you want, I think on my previous typing stream on the VOD, in the description, I think I've got a link to the typing test I was using for that stream, and I'll probably use the same one for the next one if you'd like to have a look at the site and have a go. Excuse me, sorry. Yes, my personal best was 1:39 for the longest time, and I wasn't expecting to break it that stream, and I broke it several times to get up to the 1:48, but I would like to get higher. 50% of my time is spent writing in my head. I understand. Oh dear. Just hit 114 with 97% accuracy with a 1-minute test. Well done. It's pretty dang good. You write very slowly. Yes, lots going on in the head. Not much going on the pages, so to speak. Trying to figure out what to do next. I think for me in general, I know what's going on, and it's more like sort of replaying it in my head and trying to sort of get it out in the best way. And I guess that's another reason I get so frustrated that I move so slowly, because I know exactly what's happening. I just can't get it out. Oh dear. Here we are. There is reason to suppose that on Mars they may have progressed upon them with some facility. The internal anatomy, I may remark here, as dissection has since shown, was almost equally simple. The greater part of the structure was the brain, sending enormous nerves to the eyes, ear, and tactile tentacles. Besides this were the bulky lungs, into which the mouth opened, and the heart and its vessels. Pulmonary distress caused by the denser atmosphere and the greater gravitational attraction was only too evident in the convulsive movements of the outer skin. And this was the sum of the Martian's organs. Well, you're actually the reason why I cracked down and started outlining an idea I've held in my head for years, even downloaded and learned new software for it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're getting into writing. And if you've had that idea for years, I hope it feels good finally getting some stuff down for it. You might have to keep us up to date how that's going. Sounds wonderful. Well, why are you sorry? Sune, there's no need to be sorry for anything. There's lots of chat going on, lots of reading. You only have a look if you want to. It's there. The site is there if you'd like to have a look at it. Oh dear. Strange as it may seem to a human being, all of the complex apparatus of digestion which makes up the bulk of our bodies did not exist in the Martians. They were heads. Merely heads. Entrails they had none. They did not eat, much less digest. Instead, they took the fresh, living blood of other creatures and injected it into their own veins. I have myself seen this being done, as I shall mention in its place. But squeamish as I may seem, I cannot bring myself to describe what I could not endure even to continue watching. Let it suffice to say, blood obtained from a still-living animal, in most cases from a human being, was run directly by means of a little pipette into the recipient canal. Oh dear. Oh dear. Burnt. Too hot. Pizza too hot. And yes, tofu trash. Is it fantasy or what genre are you working in right now? The bare idea of this is no doubt horribly repulsive to us, but at the same time, I think that we should remember how repulsive our carnivorous habits would seem to an intelligent rabbit. The physiological advantages of the practice of injection are undeniable, and if one thinks of the tremendous waste of human time and energy occasioned by eating in the digestive process, our bodies are half made up of glands and tubes and organs occupied in turning heterogeneous food into blood. The digestive processes and their reaction upon the nervous system sap our strength and colour of our minds. Men go happy or miserable as they have healthy or unhealthy livers or sound gastric glands, but the Martians were lifted above all these organic fluctuations of mood and emotion. Blue, you were coughing. Oh, yes, just talking long time, just bit of a cough. Yes, psychological drama, more drama than psych. I prefer writing speculative fiction, but the current idea I'm working on has me by the throat. Wonderful. Oh dear. Oh dear. Ooh, vellum being the Swedish word. Dear. Ouch. Well, I hope you're all right. Not too severely burnt. Oh dear. I have a bad habit of burning the top of my mouth very badly. And then just, having the weird tingly sore on the top of your mouth for days on end. Parasitic aliens needs others' blood to work their own circulatory systems. Am I getting that right? Yes, I think they just bypass food altogether and just take the blood and inject it into themselves. No gomen required. No. Unless, sorry, I might be mixing things up. Sorry. I'm not used to so much wonderful chat going on. It's definitely an experience. Yes, it is wonderful. It is wonderful. Thank you so much for being here again, everyone. Oh dear, chat. Yes, chat windstream. Oh, is it sort of like when what are those games? Like the Jackbox games, and a few different people play, but then the chat plays too. Chat can win. Chat just wins for being here. Their undeniable preference for men as their source of nourishment is partly explained by the nature of the remains of the victims they had brought with them as provisions from Mars. Oh no, Jackbox. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm game for Jackbox. Currently playing the War of the Worlds. I don't know, have there been any games made based on the War of the Worlds? I imagine there probably have been, given its public domain now. I mean, it's right there. People can take it and make games out of it. But I've definitely never seen anyone playing them, but maybe I should look into it. There could be a fun thing to do after we finish reading it, maybe have a poke around if there's any games been made. These creatures, to judge from the shriveled remains that have fallen into human hands, were bipeds with flimsy, siliceous skeletons, almost like those of the siliceous sponges, and feeble musculature, standing about 6 feet high and having round, erect heads and large eyes in flinty sockets. 2 or 3 of these seemed to have been brought in each cylinder, and were all killed before Earth was reached. It was just as well for them, for the mere attempt to stand upright on our planet would have broken every bone in their bodies. And while I am engaged in this description, I may add in this place certain further details which, although they were not all evident to us at the time, will enable the reader who is unacquainted with them to form a clearer picture of these offensive creatures. In 3 other points their physiology differed strangely from ours. Their organisms did not sleep, any more than the heart of man sleeps. Since they had no extensive muscular mechanisms to recuperate, that periodical extinction was unknown to them. They had little or no sense of fatigue, it would seem. On Earth, they could never have moved without effort, yet even to the last they kept in action. In 24 hours they did 24 hours of work, and even on Earth is perhaps the case with the ants. There is a War of the Worlds board game. Ooh, I haven't heard of that. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I might have to look that up. In the next place, wonderful as it seems in a sexual world, the Martians were absolutely without sex, and therefore without any of the tumultuous emotions that arise from that difference among men. A young Martian, there can now be no dispute, was really born upon Earth during the war, and it was found attached to its parent, partially budded off, just as young lily bulbs bud off, or like the young animals in the freshwater polyp. Oh dear, without counsel purposes are disappointed, but in the multitudes of counsellors they are established. Proverbs. Find something to talk about this idea so it seems less tedious. Oh, sorry, head spinning again. It's late. It's now 12:30 here. 12:30 in the AM. But we shall get through this chapter. I think, haven't we gotten through a grand total of 2.5 chapters so far? Oh dear. That's okay. In man, in all the higher terrestrial animals, such a method of increase has disappeared, but even on this earth it was certainly the primitive method. Among the lower animals, up even to those first cousins of the vertebrated animals, the tunicates, and the two processes occur side by side. But finally the sexual method superseded its competitor altogether. On Mars, however, just the reverse has apparently been the case. It is worthy of remark that a certain speculative writer of quasi-scientific repute, writing long before the Martian invasion, did forecast for man a final structure not unlike the actual Martian condition. His prophecy, I remember, appeared in November or December 1893 in the long-defunct publication The Pall Mall Budget, and I recall a caricature of it in a pre-Martian periodical called Punch. He pointed out, writing in a foolish, facetious tone, that the perfection of mechanical appliances must ultimately supersede limbs. The perfection of chemical devices, digestion, that of such organs as hair, external nose, teeth, ears, and chin were no longer essential parts of the human being, and that the tendency of natural selection would lie in the direction of their steady diminution through the coming ages. The brain alone remained a cardinal necessity. Only one other part of the body had a strong case for survival, and that was the hand, teacher and agent of the brain. While the rest of the body dwindled, the hands would grow larger. Okay. Surely am. I annoy my friends often with my word babble. I'm currently trying to see if H.G. Wells based this off a viral parasite. It maps well, I think. I think you might be right there. Oh dear, you're treading the grounds of select your infected. Exhaust, death note, and 1 to 8 priority, all of which are things that require a lot of conversation with more people to properly flesh out. Yes, being a streamer sounds hard and I can barely keep up with the chat and I don't have to read a book. Yes, I'm just trying to sort of bounce back and forth, and when I'm reading, if I see something go in the chat, I try to jump across. I think, given there's, it's not chat chaos like it is in some streamers that have an awful lot of subscribers, and I'd like to try chat chaos one time. It looks strangely zen. But for now, I like to try to get through as much of the chat as I can. As much as I can. The board game's called War of the Worlds New Wave. It's a 2-player game. So who will be player 2? I don't know. Might be something to think about. All terms you're unfamiliar with, and you're looking at it from a bio student's perspective. It looks like you have more stuff to deep dive into Wiki for. Wiki is indeed a useful thing. Yes, the War of the Worlds board game. It might be something to look into to play with someone maybe on stream. We'll have to see. Oh dear. Where are we? Here we are. Oh wait, my throat is going. I should drink some water. Oh dear. There we go. You humbly and obnoxiously volunteer. Oh, it would be fun. But I will definitely have to, I'd have to get hold of the game first. Water is wet. You're right, it is. So very wet. And so very sloshy. And occasionally even very blue. Yeah, one of the things you could do would be looking into other psychological dramas so you have a clear idea of what works and what doesn't. And bad idea, chat is player 2 and you need to agree on every move. That could be fun. I'd have to sort of maybe do it by what is it? Chat plays by poll. Maybe four options or something. I'm not sure. That could work. Water isn't wet, it makes other things wet. That's an opinion. That's definitely an opinion. One I will have to respectfully disagree with. Water is wet. Repeated. See below. Water is wet. Yes, I may have to be on the water is wet argument for this one. I'm so sorry, Sune. But yes, chat as player 2 could be fun. I will definitely look into that. There's another board game that I've been interested in trying to figure out a way to play on stream called I think it's just called Once Upon a Time. It's a storytelling board game. And I haven't looked into it yet, but maybe we can figure out a way to play with blue as player 1 and chat as player 2. Could work. If we did chat as player 2, we'd progress and go about the same pace of going with the book. Well, at the very least, that is several streams worth of content, of which Blue at least would be very grateful for, because Blue is sort of hunting for ways to get out of having too many writing streams. Being the library and the writer she is, she knows she should have the many writing streams, but it's taxing. It's pretty taxing. Oh dear. But yes, board games with Blue and chat. I will definitely have a look into it. It may take a little while, I'm sorry, but I'll at least look at the Once Upon a Time game, because I have that one right here. But I'll see if I can get hold of the War of the Worlds game. It might involve using Amazon, which I'm not very happy about, because I'm not really a fan of Amazon and I avoid using it as much as I can. But if that's the best and or only way to get hold of it, I'll fight you in chess. You will fight me and you will win. I will lose spectacularly. Sorry, I'm new to the law. You are a library, not a librarian. I'm a library. I'm a library in human skin. And I am somewhat interested in the fact that no one has yet asked me where I acquired my skin. And I'm also glad you haven't asked yet, because I'm not going to tell you. No time for law. I'm writing other stuff. But yes, I am a library. I am a library. How would you do in chess boxing? Probably not well. Took the skin. Let's not go into that right now. We're reading a book, we're chatting, let's not argue about whose skin belongs to whom. Yeah, there's no interesting story behind that at all. Look, I know some schools have human skin covering their books. I'm not going to ask. Oh dear. Yeah. What the heck is chess boxing? Oh dear. I'm going to read a few more paragraphs. Oh dear. Where are we? We've got the brain and hands. Did we get further than that? Not quite yet. Oh, the hands will grow larger. There is many a true word written in jest, and here in the Martians, we have beyond dispute the actual accomplishment of such a suppression of the animal side of the organism by the intelligence. To me, it is quite credible that the Martians may be descended from beings not unlike ourselves by a gradual development of brain and hands, the latter giving rise to the two bunches of delicate tentacles at last, at the expense of the rest of the body. Without the body, the brain would, of course, become mere selfish intelligence, without any of the emotional substratum of the human being. Okay. Here we go. Oh no, Blue, what the? Chess boxing is boxing with chess. One round of boxing, round ends, you play chess, and you go back to boxing. First to checkmate or first to KO wins. Sounds good to me. Why? Because it's fun to watch. I like not getting punched. Blue, as a matter of fact, has done a reasonable amount of martial arts in her time. And, yes, we normally don't get punched itself, but, holding the punching bags and, having people punching into them, it actually feels pretty good. I like taking a punch in that sense. I don't think I'd like to take the punch, on the jaw or in the eye or anything along those lines. But, feeling the oomph behind it, actually, it's kind of nice. Oh dear, it's been a long time since I've done it, though. I used to do taekwondo. Wow. Taekwondo. Much kicking. Much kicking. Not the face. Oh dear. So, seriously, chess boxing. Mum version. You remember no taekwondo. I like to hope that I remember bits and pieces of what I did, or that I would remember it when I need it. I do remember the general instruction being, if you have the opportunity, do not fight, run away, which I suppose is a very good thing to sort of hammer into the students first. I also did MA for years. You agree, feeling the impact is strangely satisfying, isn't it? It's good. Only like a green belt, so I think I got up to the highest belt level that mine was, which oddly enough was not black belt. I did an Indonesian style martial art that was marketed as karate, I think, to bring in students, but it wasn't actually karate. You've never had the opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry. Martial arts is fun. Oh dear. I do like the sounds of chess boxing, though. Oh dear, possibly it would just descend into sort of using the chess pieces to pretend fight each other instead once we got tired of getting punched. But that's fun too, especially if you do the little voices as you go. We had protective gear on. Probably good. The vest plan. I remember there was always a pile of protective gear sort of brought to the lessons, but I don't think many people actually used it. I think I vaguely remember, occasionally using gauntlet-like fist guards, but not very often. I don't like sport, do theatre. What about theatre sports? Theatre sports are fun. I did that instead of other sports in school. I don't think I'd be able to do it anymore. My brain's not nearly quick enough anymore. But, well, yes, theatre is a sport if you dance enough, definitely. No, I think martial arts is the only sort of physical sport I really did much of, except swimming. I've done a fair amount of swimming. I was never fast, but what pray tell are theatre sports? Are you aware of Whose Line Is It Anyway? The show called Whose Line Is It Anyway? I recommend you look up Whose Line Is It Anyway on YouTube and watch, because that is theatre sports. You know, the making the theatre games and making it up as you go. Impromptu like. But yes, my head is nowhere near fast enough to do it anymore. Like, what are some of the games we played? We played something called Death in a Minute, where, you know, it was a scene with 4 people and someone had to die in the scene with it, and the scene only goes for a minute and you have to work the scene around that. Improv sounds hard. It is. It is. But I usually did it with a team of people that I was quite familiar with, and we'd done drama together, so we sort of knew each other's styles and could sort of bounce off each other fairly easily. I don't think I'd be able to do it anymore. Although, you know, VTuber theatre sports could be fun. You know, and at least do the improv voices for it. Oh dear, fun but really chaotic. So maybe if I eventually got to know a few more VTubers, that could be an interesting thing to pursue one time. Oh, you took 2 semesters of theatre, and improv is fun and terrifying and fun and funny, and I mentioned fun. Yes, it definitely fun, definitely terrifying. But yeah, I love Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's just ridiculous. It would be fun to try. God, voice-only improv sounds difficult enough that it may be a result of relying too much on physical humour. I had this odd, vaguely useful talent in high school in that I was not afraid to just simply go stiff as a board and fall flat. So long as I landed on a particular point on my shoulder, I could take it. And just, you know, didn't think anything about it. I was just, you know, collapsing left, right, and centre for the sake of drama. Only in drama class, not outside of class. But, you know, it was a useful thing. Definitely could not do that anymore. And this is even, you know, I knew how to do theatre falls, the one when you shift your feet and you go backwards safely. This was just full-on body stiff down. You can fall pretty well, and you probably, having done taekwondo, can actually fall properly. This was a really, really stupid way for me to be falling. I'm surprised I didn't, you know, damage my shoulder permanently, honestly. Oh dear. Here we are. The last salient point in which the systems of these creatures differed from ours was in what one might have thought a very trivial particular. Microorganisms which cause so much disease and pain on Earth have either never appeared upon Mars, or Martian sanitary science eliminated them ages ago. 100 diseases, all the fevers and contagions of human life, consumption, cancers, tumours, and such morbidities, never enter the scheme of their life. And speaking of the differences between the life on Mars and terrestrial life, I may allude here to the curious suggestions of the red weed. Excuse me, sorry. Oh dear, in our theatre troupe, we got sent to the basement to scream so we could have bar-curdling screams when people get murdered. A lot of murder in your place. You fell on your shoulder. Yeah, it was always on the shoulder. I forget which shoulder it was, which shows I didn't do permanent damage, but it was always, I could, you know, line up the same point on my shoulder. I miss taekwondo. I loved jumping sideways into the padded wall for literally no reason. It's cathartic. It's good. Just head on, flop onto the wall, and then flat on your back. Indeed. Yes, lots of murder in plays is always good. Particularly when there's blood-curdling screams involved. There's, yeah, we didn't really have anywhere to practice screaming. So I don't actually remember us being able to practice screaming, sadly. I think the computer classes were in the same building as the drama room, so I think we may have disturbed them if we got too loud. Murder is always good, Blue 2024. Well, yeah. I'm a writer. Murder is always good in stories, so long as it stays in stories. Or theatre, which is stories. So, yes, less a fan of IRL murder. In fact, I'd go so far to say as I'm not a fan at all of IRL murder. Just the fictional kind. Maybe that seems like an architectural flaw. Indeed. I'm guessing it was not planned for those two classes to be in the same building. Yeah, particularly because there's so much what's the term I'm looking for? Why is the only word I can think of collateral? It's not collateral, it's props. Well, in drama it's props. In the computers, it's computers. So there's a lot of equipment. Equipment is a word that exists that I should have known and should have used in that situation. There's a lot of equipment in both drama and computer classes. So it'd take a while to move things. Oh, I had to do my dramatic final in which I threatened someone to silence with an implied beating by a chair. And that time the choir was practicing their Latin chants. It felt like a real character then. This isn't a reading stream, it's a just chatting stream. I'm sorry, I didn't think I would have enough people for years to do any actual just chatting streams, so I haven't tried to schedule them. If I scheduled just chatting streams, would people just be happy to come along and have random chats? Let me know. Let me know if you think just chatting streams are definitely worth doing, and I will start scheduling them. We were not tasked to scream, we just did it on impulse, and the teacher recorded. We practiced and learned African theatre, so lots of drums, meaning a heck of a lot of noise. Ooh, drums in theatre, that's the best. Must have been wonderful. Just chatting is great, though. I will do it. Okay, I will think about trying to get some just chatting streams in. Okay. I was just worried, we wouldn't have anything to talk about, or there would only be one very shy person in the chat. But if people are able to come, I suppose it's a bit hard to find a time that's best for everyone, but, well, it's the Wednesday today, and it seemed a lot of you are able to come about now. So maybe if I do a typing streams actually be pretty good to be combined with just chatting, because a lot of the time I'm just going to be focused on trying to get the typing done. So, and after one typing round, chat for a while longer, go for it again. That could work. Schedule and I'd show up. I'm at the opposite side of the world, who it seems I cannot promise being awake, but if I am, I'm here for chats. Just talk about anything. The weather is so weathery. It is indeed. I wish it would stop being weathery sometimes and give something else a go. Midnight for you generally works for me. Yep, so I probably don't want to start any later than 10 p.m. for me, because otherwise I'll be up till like 3 a.m. or something, which does not work with the small one, who is generally up around 6. Oh dear. Okay, so I'll either schedule a typing or a just chatting stream for the same time next week, and if it's the typing one, I'll probably wind up pretty much just chatting anyway. Oh no, my throat, so much talking. Water is wet. Water is definitely wet. Apparently, the vegetable kingdom in Mars, instead of having green for a dominant colour, is of a vivid blood-red tint. At any rate, the seeds which the Martians, intentionally or accidentally, brought with them gave rise in all cases to red-coloured growths. Only that known popularly as the red weed, however, gained any footing in competition with terrestrial forms. The red creeper was quite a transitory growth, and few people have seen it growing. For a time, however, the red weed grew with astonishing vigour and luxuriance. It spreads up the sides of the pit by the 3rd or 4th day of our imprisonment, and its cactus-like branches formed a carmine fringe to the edges of our triangular window. I'm sorry. And afterwards I found it broadcast throughout the country, and especially wherever there was a stream of water. Oh dear, is the halfling an early riser, or do kids just, wake up that early? It depends on how late she goes to bed. I guess. If she goes to bed a bit later, it's more around 8 o'clock. But usually it's between 6 or 7. Agree to disagree. Water is wet. Was that high-pitched noise you? Just the coughing or the water bottle or something? I don't think the small one's awake, but I'm just going to take my headphones off briefly to make sure. I hear nothing from the small one. So it wasn't her. It was probably just part of me coughing or the water bottle or something. Unless there's a strange high-pitched noise going on that I do not hear because of my headphones. I think occasionally the light fixture makes a weird, slightly buzzing sound, which I've been a bit concerned about it coming out over the streams, but I don't think it is. Oh, I don't do water bottle mugs. They're the supreme way to drink stuff. I would use a mug, but I'm known to have interesting adventures in spatial awareness. So mugs, particularly ones that are very full, tend to wind up sideways. And that's not great on a desk full of computerware. So yeah, I stick to the drink bottles for safety. Oh, she gets it. Mugs that are full tend to end up not full around Blue. Indeed. Interesting adventures in spatial awareness. Felt, heard, seen, and stolen for future use. Thank you. All yours. You like it, it's yours. Oh dear. I may use it too randomly, but that's fine. Sharing is caring. Cups are banned from my room. Yeah, it's wise. It's wise. Oh dear. Martians had what appears to have been an auditory organ, a single round drum at the back of the head body, and eyes with a visual range not very different from ours, except that, according to Phillips, blue and violet were as black to them. It is commonly supposed that they communicated by sounds and tentacular gesticulations. This is one of those moments I wish I had a model where I could move my hands. Talking about all these tentacles and gesticulations, my hands are going reasonably wild over here. Oh, Sune and Blue are too clumsy to drink wet water as opposed to dry water. Far too clumsy to drink wet water. It's just, yeah, not a good idea in general. Speaking of such, yes, my water bottle made that squeaky noise then, if that's what you heard. Dear. Oh dear. This is asserted, for instance, in the able but hastily compiled pamphlet written evidently by someone not an eyewitness of Martian actions, to which I have already alluded, and which, so far, has been the chief source of information concerning them. Now, no surviving human being saw so much of the Martians in action as I did. I take no credit to myself for an accident, but the fact is so. And I assert that I watched them closely time after time, and that I have seen 4, 5, and once 6 of them sluggishly performing the most elaborately complicated operations together, without either sound or gesture. Their peculiar hooting invariably preceded feeding. It had no modulation and was, I believe, in no sense a signal, but merely the expiration of air preparatory to the suctional operation. Blah. I have a certain claim to at least an elementary knowledge of psychology, and in this matter I am convinced, as firmly as I am convinced of anything, that the Martians interchanged thoughts without any physical intermediation. And I have been convinced of this in spite of strong preconceptions. Before the Martian invasion, as an occasional reader here or there may remember, I had written with some little vehemence against the telepathic theory. Oh dear. Dry water is ice. That's not dry. I disagree. Ice is dry, water is wet. Ah yes, I have passed many a night sticking my straw into a giant ice cube and slurping up the frozen air. Very refreshing. Ice isn't dry, it's just frozen water. And water is wet. Oh dear. Oh dear, where am I? Why am I getting so hungry? I need to eat something. When I'm finished, I will eat something. There is dry ice, but dry ice isn't water, it's solid carbon. Oh dear. All this phase state conversation. The Martians wore no clothing. Their conceptions of ornaments and decorum were necessarily different from ours. And not only are they evidently much less sensible of changes of temperature than we are, but changes of pressure do not seem to have affected their health at all seriously. Yet, though they wore no clothing, it was in the other artificial additions to their bodily resources that their great superiority over man lay. We men, with our bicycles and road skates, our lilienthal soaring machines, our guns and sticks and so forth, are just in the beginning of the evolution that the Martians have worked out. They have become practically mere brains, wearing different bodies according to their needs, just as men wear suits of clothes and take a bicycle in a hurry or an umbrella in the wet. Oh dear, ice can't make you wet if you're not touching it. CO2 knows carbon solids would be coal and make it wet water. You can't, just not as much as water. Yes, it's solid carbon dioxide. Oh, I think I'll just keep reading for now. Here we are. And of their appliances, perhaps nothing is more wonderful to a man than the curious fact that what is the dominant feature of almost all human devices in mechanism is absent. The wheel is absent. Among all the things they brought to earth, there is no trace or suggestion of their use of wheels. One would have at least expected it in the locomotion, and in this connection, it is curious to remark that even on this earth, nature has never hit upon the wheel, or has preferred other expedients to its development. And not only did the Martians either not know of, which is incredible, or abstain from the wheel, but in their apparatus, singularly little use is made of the fixed pivot, or relatively fixed pivot, with circular motions thereabout confined to one plane. Almost all the joints of the machinery present a complicated system of sliding parts moving over small but beautifully curved friction bearings. And while upon this matter of detail it is remarkable that the long leverages of the machines are in most cases actuated by a sort of sham musculature of the discs in an elastic sheath. These discs become polarized and drawn closely and powerfully together when traversed by a current of electricity. In this way, the curious parallelism to animal emotions, which are so striking and disturbing to the human beholder, was attained. Such quasi-muscles abounded in the crab-like handling machine, which, on my first peeping out of the slit, I watched unpacking the cylinder. It seemed infinitely more alive than the actual Martians lying beyond it in the sunset light, panting, stirring ineffectual tentacles, and moving feebly after their vast journey across space. Oh dear. Blue looking at chat to see talk about random elements. So true. It is like that sometimes. I love the narrative style of this. They sound like they're reading scientific journals, but entirely more entertaining. It is pretty cool the way they've done this. I think the protagonist is a philosopher, and so is, I think, that sort of lends to this particular style. He's sort of, taking us through all the science that was done after everything happened, and then it'll bring us back to the moment. Alright guys, have to go. I haven't had this much talking in a group for a long time. Bye bye. Bye bye, Sune. Thank you so much for coming here, and I hope you did have a lovely time. See you. Have a good one. Thanks everyone. I'll see you later. Bye. I'll housewesen. Bye bye. Bye bye. I shall hopefully see you again sometime. Oh dear. We'll finish up this chapter and we'll sing our goodbyes. I'm not sure how much more of the chapter there is, given this seems to be quite a technical one. But let's keep going. While I was still watching their sluggish motions in the sunlight and noting each strange detail of their form, the curate reminded me of his presence by pulling violently at my arm. I turned to a scowling face and silent, eloquent lips. He wanted the slit which permitted only one of us to peep through, so I had to forego watching them for a time while he enjoyed that privilege. When I looked again, the busy handling machine had already put together several of the pieces of apparatus it had taken out of the cylinder into a shape having an unmistakable likeness to its own. And down on the left, a busy little digging mechanism had come into view, emitting jets of green vapour and working its way round the pit, excavating and embanking in a methodical and discriminating manner. This it was which had caused the... I read that entirely wrong. Did I? This it was which had... I did not read it wrong. This it was which had caused the regular beating noise and the rhythmic shocks that had kept our ruinous refuge quivering. It piped and whistled as it worked. As far as I could see, the thing was without a directing Martian at all. Blue, an hour and a half ago. I'll end it right after this chapter. Blue now. Yeah, well, we just finished that chapter. We did. We are now up to chapter 3 of book 2, The Days of Imprisonment. So I'm calling it. I'm calling it. That has been... Oh, goodness me, we've just hit 3 hours. Oh, dear, I am tired. But I hope everyone has had a good time chatting and very, very slowly working through 3 chapters. Goodness me, you're right, that was definitely much more of a chatting stream than a reading stream. Hi, Tide, I'm Latui. Hi, Latui, it is wonderful to meet you. Again. Thank you for dealing with us, wild rats. You are not wild rats. While you are in the chat of blue, I hope you would be happy to think of yourselves as lovely MacGuffins. But only if that term appeals to you. Blue sleep. I'm guessing it'll take me at least 2 hours to fall asleep once I actually go to bed. Not now. I will finish the stream first. I will sing the parting glass first, I promise. And I'll probably have to eat something. Blue being one of the first people to get my name right on the first try. It looks the pronunciation looks vaguely Japanese style, and I lean towards that in lieu of English because I'm more comfortable with that. I know there's no L's in Japanese, but I think the L and R are sometimes interchanged in romanizations, but Latui, it looks, well, I hope it's right. I'm sorry for not asking in advance about the pronunciation. I just confidently charged into that one, but I'm glad I got it right. I'm a plot device. I always wanted to be one. Yes, I was silly and I thought about things that corporate VTubers think about, being things like community names and such. But yes, I chose MacGuffins. I worried that some people might not find it flattering because I think some people think MacGuffins, are just to move things along and aren't important in themselves. But I argue that MacGuffins are very important and the stories could not exist without the MacGuffins. So I liked it. I mean, other options could have been something like pen pals, but I have a feeling that would have been taken already. Oh, I haven't gotten Japanese before. Most people think I'm French. And you're right about Eleanor. Oh, dear. Oh, I hope to grow up as a Deus Ex Machina one day. Ooh, that would be an interesting way to grow up. Oh, dear. Yes, I do still occasionally think along the lines of when I grow up. Yes. Blue's not an adult. What are we talking about? Deus Ex Machina is such a fun phrase. Oh, dear. So what is your nationality? You don't need to answer. Yes, only answer these sort of things if you want to, but it is all good. I'm almost starting to forget that I'm the one talking here, and I'm almost waiting for someone else to actually start talking. Merca. Oh, dearie me. Oh dear, this stream's gotten 18 views. It just seems like so many, given it's just so many wonderful things have happened throughout. Still, 18 views, not bad for me. Thank you for these glorious 18 views. Oh dear. So. Given we are now over 3 hours, I should probably try to wrap it out without tangenting for too long, which I tend to do, as you probably know by now. Don't feel the need to actually do this, but perhaps a Discord for your channel. Yes, another lovely has mentioned Discord as well. Given the chat tonight, I think I will have to think about it. I'll have to think about it. I suppose I'm concerned about the moderating part of it. You see, some nightmares that happen in Discord servers, and I don't think I'd be able to deal with them very well. I'd hope that wouldn't happen, but just have to be careful. Oh, I miss a Deus machine as a oh dear, cannot read out equations. It's used like a mod bot. I will definitely start looking into it. It may take me a little while, and I'm so sorry about that, but I am so not tech inclined. I use just the very, very basics of Discord. But I will see if I can have communications with people who know a little more than me, or a lot more than me, in these matters, and I will see what I can do. I'll see what I can do. I used to make Xbox servers for people. Modbox aren't terribly hard to set up. Okay. I will. Well, most of the really good ones make you pay for premium. As you do. I suppose modbots got to make a living. It's a rough world out there. Oh dear. So yes. Discord, I should move higher on my list of things to do. My list of things to do, which I have not actually written out because I'm too scared to actually write it out and see everything that I actually need to do. How many times did I say actually there? Many. Okay, so the plan, Discord aside, the plan, at least you don't live in a grimdark world. That is, well, I suppose that's arguable, I guess. Having lists makes things easier and more coherent. I know. But it also makes everything real, as opposed to concepts dancing in my head. Increasingly insistent, terrifying dances, but still just dancing. I will get on it. But, there's scary things like having to write a letter to a principal of the school you're going to send your small one to for various reasons. And world building stuff for collabs that I want to get done. And I know what I want to do, I just can't bring myself to get it down. Just writing in general and life in general and, oh dear, various appointments. I know it's nothing compared to what so many people have to do and keep ordered, but I'm very scatty. Oh dear, I'm fictional. Yay, I hate being real. Chat is all fictional. We don't exist. Wake up. I'm here. I'm sorry, we don't exist. I will wake up. I enjoy existing. Is that weird? It shouldn't be weird. And I hope it's not. Oh, dearie me. So, yes, we'll try to move getting a Discord server together upwards on the to-do list. And yes, we won't read War of the Worlds maybe for a few weeks, and we'll finish it up a bit later, because I still haven't figured out how I'm going to get hold of indie authors and chat with them about reading their first few chapters, and maybe doing some sort of questionnaire with them about their writing. I thought something like that would be fun, but I'm not sure about approaching people. It's a lot. Yes, but after we finish the War of the Worlds eventually, I will figure out something we can do with reading streams. Most people enjoy existing. Sometimes it's less fun, though. Very true. Very true. So yes, not War of the Worlds next week, but either a typing stream or a just chatting, and we'll see where just chatting takes us. I just, concerned about not many people can make it at the beginning, so it'll just sort of be Blue sitting there chatting to herself for a while. Ooh, you could do a short story submission-based thing with your audience. That could be interesting. I mean, I was thinking about at one point doing sort of brainstorming streams, so we just try to think of as many things as possible related to one thing. Like if you just, I think one of the concepts I have, you have telepathy but only with fish sort of thing, and just think of as many different ideas that we can get from this random thing. Then I thought maybe, I could try to do a short story from one of those on a stream, and everyone else, if they want to, could try to do a short story with that, and we could look at them later. Maybe something like that. And Tofu and Latui are the weird ones. Finally, I'm not the wacky thing in front of the classroom. Thinking is so fun. I will say these koi have weird thoughts. I am the amorphous blob at the front of the classroom. But, no one can disagree. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm not sure why I thought of the telepathy with fish. I suppose it's just, it would be such a disappointment to me being scared of fish. But then I thought of things like the the salmon of knowledge in Celtic lore and stuff, and we could do something interesting with things like that. But yeah, I think that's one of the ones I've written a few things down for, so I might wind up using it for the first one anyway. But I think I wanted to try to get a few more short story writing streams done first. I'm rambling, I'm tangenting. I need sleep. But yes, typing or chatting stream probably next Wednesday. I think I'll play Banished again next Monday, because I enjoyed that very much. So more Banished probably next week. And if I can get another short story together for next week, I'll do another one. If not, maybe a brainstorming stream. It could be fun. Super random superpowers are funny. They are. I originally had a plan to try to use shorts and just do like something to do with, what is it, mundane jobs for superpowers and stuff like that. What did fish do to you? Hop up and bite your nose? Not quite. I do have a mildly traumatic fish thing in the past. I wasn't present for it, but it did effect. It did involve my pet fish dying rather horribly. So I'm guessing that's got something to do with it. Busy streamer. Pretty busy. Not nearly as busy as others, but Blue is scared of the fish. Yes, Blue is very scared of the fish. Blue wants the fish to continue existing very pleasantly and happily in their own fishy worlds, just far away from me. I usually say the nose thing about soup. Oh dear. So, thank you for helping me pretty much plan my schedule for next week. That's very helpful. Hopefully that means I will get it out in time. Okay, just let me look up my lyrics, even though I think I don't need them anymore for the first few verses at least. Oh dear. No, lyrics please. Not YouTube videos. There we go. Soup is a mid-food, down with soup. Oh, soup. I don't mind a bit of soup. I mean, drownal soup. Oh dear. I don't mind soup occasionally. It's not usually, my first choice if I'm picking something to eat, but a bit of soup is nice. Okay, before we go off on too far of a soupy tangent, I should probably sing and call it. Down with soup, rise up the stew lovers. Stew is good. Okay. No more soup, no more stew. We are singing a parting glass and I'm going to bed. Stew is only good with rice. I'm sorry, I've got to stop reading the chat so I can sing and go to bed. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been glorious. I've had a wonderful time. I will stop reading the chat and sleep. I'm sorry. Oh dear. So yes, thank you so much. And wherever you are in the world, good night to you, or good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And I hope the rest of your day is absolutely lovely, because that's what we all deserve. And we have to try to remind ourselves of that sometime. So let's work on that. Of all the money that e'er I had, I have spent it in good company. Oh, and all the harm I've ever done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be to you all. Oh dear. Until next time. Bye bye.